Good morning, half a day. Today is Wednesday, Ash Wednesday that is, February 18, 2026. At this public hearing of the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, and Federal and Foreign Affairs is hereby called to order. It is exactly 9 a.m. This hearing was duly noticed in accordance with the first notice issued February 11, 2026, second notice issued February 16, 2026. Today's agenda includes one item only, Bill number 242-38 LS. Some housekeeping measures and procedures before we start. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items for the record. And as stated in both the first and second notices, broadcast and stream. This public hearing will be broadcast live on local television and streamed online through the GUAM'S YouTube channel. Second, ADA notice, in compliance with Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, all government activities, programs, and services are accessible. If anyone requires assistance or special accommodations to participate today, please contact my office using the contact information provided in the notices. 3, written testimony and participation. If you would like to participate or submit written testimony, you may contact my office via email at senator.lujan@guamlegislature.gov. Time and format for everyone's awareness, we have the public hearing room reserved from 9 a.m. through 12 p.m. During that time, the chair will not limit any testimony, not the number of people presenting, and not how long you'd like to speak as well. If we go past 12, we may not be able to finish. I am willing to schedule an additional hearing as soon as possible at the earliest time when the author, Senator Will Parkinson, is available so that everyone who wishes to be heard will be heard. We will now proceed with the sole agenda, Bill number 242-38 LS, William A. Parkinson, an act to amend subsection 2102, 2104, 2105, 2110, and 2111 of Chapter 21, Chapter 1, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the removing ancestry-based voter restrictions in Guam's political status plebiscite and ensuring compliance with the 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Before, again, we open up for public testimony, I'd like to begin by recognizing, of course, the author, Senator Will Parkinson, as well as thank you for joining us, Senator Teresa Lai. Thank you also, Senator Shelley Calvo, for joining us this morning. Senator Parkinson, you may begin and state, of course, your name and author and all that, right, before we begin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hafaday. My name is Senator Will Parkinson. And as to the question on why are we here today, we are here because we as a community have yet to deal with the reality of the ruling in the Davis case. Back in 2011, a lawsuit challenged Guam's decolonization registry, which limited voting to native inhabitants defined under the 1950 Organic Act and their descendants. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that restriction as unconstitutional, saying it acted as a proxy for race and violated the 15th Amendment. After the Supreme Court declined to hear the case, we, the people of Guam, hit a legal wall. No registry, no plebiscite, no vote. This bill is about us coming together as a community to break that paralysis using the last legal precedent Guam history has shown to be legally defensible. The 1982 plebiscite utilized universal suffrage and was open to all registered voters. I deeply respect and understand the passion of the advocates who oppose this bill. But to my colleagues and my people of Guam who are sitting at home following this discussion, please understand why the current restriction of voting is a dead letter. The principle of universal suffrage for all is a bedrock principle of decolonization in international affairs. Every successful UN-backed plebiscite we have witnessed in modern history has used universal suffrage to achieve that result without exception. Every single successful decolonization effort across the world has utilized a legal vote open to all citizens with reasonable restrictions based on citizenship, residency, and age. And I ask you all, please don't take my word for it. I humbly ask the people watching to confirm the truth of my words and look it up. See for yourself. The history is very, very clear. Never in the history of the United Nations have they supported decolonization where any territory successfully pursued decolonization by restricting the vote to native inhabitants only. That has never been done. Again, let me repeat, never in the history of UN-supported decolonization has any territory successfully pursued decolonization by restricting the vote to native inhabitants only. Ever. Ever. Whether you follow the constitutional mandates of the United States or the international norms advocated by the United Nations, a native inhabitant-only vote has never resulted in decolonization. That is how extraordinary and impossible the language of our current plebiscite laws stand. It is unprecedented to achieve decolonization that is recognized by the United Nations or the United States using a race-only role in the modern multi-ethnic territory. If we as an island want to decolonize like the rest of the world, we must follow the same path and steps of peoples and territories that have walked this path before us. The path our law currently puts us on are indefensible within the framework of both the United Nations and the United States. Again, I stress to everyone listening how extraordinary what the law demands by restricting the vote to native inhabitant only. The path we are currently on now has never led to decolonization. That is not hyperbole. That is an observable fact. There has never been a successful United Nations-backed plebiscite that restricted the vote to native inhabitants only. In the face of that truth, it is time for us as an island to have an important conversation on how we move forward as a community so we can actually achieve our shared goal of decolonization. International law has long affirmed that the right of self-determination in a non-self-governing territory belongs to all people under its government, not only to an indigenous or native subgroup. As the International Court of Justice explained in 1975, the application of this right requires a free and genuine expression of the will of the peoples concerned. In other words, the decision on Guam's future must be reached through the participation of the population of the territory as a whole, not by excluding most voters. This principle was anchored in the United Nations when it declared that all peoples have the right to self-determination. That is, every group in Guam may freely determine our political status and pursue our development. The 1960 Declaration of Colonial Independence also enjoins that decolonization occur without any distinction as to race, creed, or color, and in accordance with the people's freely expressed will. In short, international law has always rejected any race or ancestry-based restriction on who can vote in the self-determination process. Subsequent UN instruments reinforce these core commands. For example, Assembly's 1541-15 principles require that any transition, whether independence, free association, or integration, be the result of free and voluntary choice by the peoples of the territory, expressed through the informed and democratic process. Likewise, the 1970 Declaration on Friendly Relations emphasizes that any new political status be freely determined by a people as a mode of implementing self-determination. These texts make clear Guam's people must be asked collectively and on equal basis what form of relationship to the United States we want. We cannot honor Chamorro rights and self-determination by disenfranchising fellow residents of different ancestry or origin. Professor John Van Dyke, an expert on non-self-governing territories, underscores this point. As he notes, in such territories, all peoples have the right to govern themselves, and all indigenous people also have this right. He explains that the right of self-determination has two aspects. One for the territory's non-self-governing people, i.e. its entire populace, and one for indigenous people's cultural autonomy. Importantly, these are parallel and not competing rights. The dominant norm is that all residents share the right to determine Guam's political status, even as indigenous Chamorros also maintain special cultural and land rights, as recognized by the Organic Act and proposed Commonwealth drafts. Van Dyke's analysis confirms Guam's future cannot be decided by an injunction-stalled voter pool. It must reflect the will of the people of Guam as a whole. We can debate the history of how people arrived here for another century, but the court has already ruled. If we keep the current role and leave the law on the book exactly as it is, no vote will ever happen. My neighbors deserve a vote. But more importantly, the Chamorro people deserve a result that the US and the UN will actually recognize. Today, fewer than half of Guam's 160,000 residents can trace Chamorro ancestry. The other two-thirds are immigrants and their descendants. Roughly 26% of Guam's people are Filipino, and tens of thousands hail from other Pacific islands, Chuuk, Ponape, Palau, the Marshall Islands, etc. Most of these immigrants have long been US citizens or nationals, many through compact or naturalization, and pay taxes here, yet they were recently barred from participating in the plebiscite process. They too live under US authority on Guam, and they too are subject to the conditions of our unincorporated status. To exclude them from a vote on Guam's own future is to replicate a classic colonial injustice within our own community. It is essential to remember that Guam's decolonization efforts have historically been inclusive. When we held a territory-wide status referendum in January 1982, all registered voters were eligible regardless of ancestry. Likewise, the Guam Commonwealth Act, drafted in that era, preserves special Chamorro land and cultural protections while expressly allowing all residents to vote. In other words, Guam's own precedent and the clear commands of international law envision a plebiscite electorate of all residents, with Chamorro rights and cultural protections safeguarded, but not at the expense of any long-term Guamanians' vote. On the federal side, the courts have likewise ruled that Guam's plebiscite must be open to everyone. In Davis v. Guam, the Ninth Circuit struck down Guam's restriction of the vote to native inhabitants of Guam as a 15th Amendment violation, essentially because ancestry was used as a proxy for race. That decision, later affirmed by a permanent injunction, means Guam's plebiscite cannot lawfully be conducted on a race-based voter roll. Most recently, on February 17, 2026, the Guam Election Commission confirmed this outcome in writing. The Guam Election Commission letter to Senator Parkinson makes clear that the decolonization registry is now defunct and unused. Since the injunction took effect, the Commission has ceased all registry-related activities. It has not used the registry to determine voter eligibility, issue ballots, calculate participation, or administer any election or plebiscite. In its own words, the Commission cannot use, enforce, or operationalize any registry that functions as a race or ancestry-based voting qualification. In short, the plebiscite law as written cannot be implemented without violating constitutional and human rights obligations. The only remedy under law is to rewrite Guam's statute. This bill, 248-38, would remove any ancestry-based limits and instruct that the plebiscite use Guam's ordinary voter eligibility standards. 240. Oh, I apologize. The change is not only necessary to comply, I apologize, I may have said 248, I meant to say 242-38. This bill would remove any ancestry-based limits and instruct that the plebiscite use ordinary voter eligibility standards. That change is not only necessary to comply with the courts, it is exactly what international law requires. Every adult resident's vote must count equally, and only such an all-inclusive vote can legitimately express the free and genuine expression of Guam's collective will. If you want to have a conversation about what a reasonable residency requirement would be, I am open and willing to support that change. I know that the committee chair has expressed the sentiment that we may need multiple hearings to weigh more testimony on such a substantial bill. And I welcome that additional discussion. From the feedback received, it is clear that request for a reasonable residency requirement has been an overwhelming request from the community. And I think we will find broad agreement that that is a necessary amendment. And I want to say that in all this, I am not following the Ninth Circuit as my inspiration for how to move forward on this. I am following the wisdom of our elders in 1982. They knew then what we are just relearning now. A united Guam is the only Guam that can move the needle in Washington, D.C. or on the international stage. There is no doubt that this whole issue is contentious. Some fear that broadening the electorate dilutes Chamorro primacy or rewards newcomers. But true decolonization is not about privileging one group at the expense of others. It is about finally ending a colonial-era arrangement by empowering all Guamanians to decide Guam's fate together. History and law tell us that a truly legitimate choice will emerge only through universal suffrage with respect towards reasonable restrictions based on citizenship, residency, and age. As one UN declaration urges, we must bring an end to colonialism, having due regard to the freely expressed will of the peoples concerned. Thus, I urge this body to embrace the higher principles at stake. Let us act with courage and fairness and change the law so that the upcoming plebiscite reflects the will of all Guam's voters and follows a path that has a realistic chance of achieving the goal of decolonization. In the face of controversy, the bonds of our shared Guam community, the demands of the Constitution, international law, and our own conscience can compel us to do no less. Together, we can resolve this question peacefully and inclusively, fulfilling Guam's right to self-determination with openness and integrity. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak on this bill, and I yield the rest of my time. Look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Parkinson. Want to welcome, thank you also. Oh, did we lose him? Oh. Senator Taitigui, thank you for joining us, and Senator Binsbora, thank you for joining us as well. We'll move now to public testimony. As a general rule, we will call folks testifying in the order in which they signed up. However, before we begin the sign-up list, I want to note for the record, as chair, I have allowed an accommodation today to permit Dr. Underwood to testify first because he is joining us via Zoom, and I think he's still yesterday. We got to bring him up to speed for today, so he's in a different time frame at this point. So we're going to allow that to happen. So let me go call up the first panel, and they would be Fernando Estevez, Bob Pelkey, Ron Laguana, David Herrera, Victoria Lola Leon Guerrero. How many chairs do we have up there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Josh Laurent. Okay. As you're getting seated, we can go ahead and start with Dr. Underwood. Please again state your name and affiliation for the record, and you may proceed with your testimony on bill number 242-38.
Thank you very much, Situs Masi, Senator, Mr. Chairman, for affording me this opportunity to present, even though I am in, actually I am in British Columbia, in spite of the background. I use this background to remind me of home. Buenas dan saludos todos hamzo manyayluho dan manyaynaho, oficiales istinakwet pun politikat, manasataw-tawho, manasagwas-gwasho. Wahu si Robert Underwood, zahu representan maisadzo, gwinina inekungok publiko. Lo ginini mas figo na hinengi jan kinimprendi, podi finaposta, como tautautono, como mansamoro, ginaan todo sedso siya, imanyaynata ni tumutuho ni linatla samoro. Ginaan todo sedso siya, imumuzihit, como tautautono, ni sinya taolog man prefecto da mga bales, da man batbaro na sendolon guahan, para tayo hinekok na tiempo, who presenta este na testimonio. Like all of us, I am many things in life. I am a Chamorro, a U.S. citizen, a father, a grandfather, and a husband. I've been made possible by relatives, neighbors who wrote long chapters into my memory of who I am and how I got here. I'm also a product of Isaina, Imastakilo na Saina, Sidzu Ustata, who tells me why I am. Professionally, I am a teacher and an historian, a part-time politician, but a full-time activist. I proudly stand with all the activists from the past, both recent and historically, as well as the hundreds of young activists today who are sometimes seen as irritants, but who really serve as our collective conscience about this special land and who we are as a people. We are here to discuss Senator Parkinson's bill because some argue that we are at a crossroads due to the geostrategic conditions that we find ourselves in. We are told that we have been waiting too long and that we must act now because the geostrategic competition can serve as a catalyst for us moving forward. This argument defies the logic of the moment. Many things are happening right now because of geostrategic competition. Billions are being spent. Environments are being destroyed and damaged. There is the dramatic growth of the US and now even possible foreign military forces being placed here in Guam on the horizon. These activities are not just enhancing the island's role as the tip of the spear, but really as the first strike community in case of war. These are the immediate consequences of the world we inhabit and the true historical legacy of being a colony. If there is any sense of urgency about all of this mass reordering of our society and our economy, why isn't any legislation being proposed about that? Where's the creative legislation being developed to deal with these changes, empowering us in Guahan to react from a position of strength and not just to accommodate the latest plan from a colonial power? Instead, we are being asked to challenge a principle that the island has formally followed for decades and advocated for generations: the decolonization of the people who were in fact colonize. This is the fundamental principle behind Chamorro self-determination. It is not the Chamorro-only vote. It is the process for freeing the island of its colonial past as well as present. Most of the arguments against it do not say that Chamorro self-determination is inherently wrong. In fact, some concede that it may have been okay decades ago. It's just too late now. Too many different people here. We need to start anew and just pretend that colonialism never really occurred. Sometimes young people, fortunately not all, act like history just began when they showed up, when they started paying attention. Members of the Guam legislature, don't fall into that trap. History is there to motivate us for the future, not just to remind us about the past. It just doesn't show up in a museum. It must show up in our daily activities and, most importantly, in our policies. Chamorros have a nearly 4,000-year-old history as the first people in human history to cross the remote ocean. Chamorros developed a language and a culture that came from the Philippines and Southeast Asia, but it developed even before the multitude of languages that now populate the Philippines. But the Chamorros are also the first Pacific people to be colonized. In the words of the anthropologist Douglas Oliver, the rape of Oceania began with Guam. There is a long list of individuals and gallery of faces who colonized Chamorros, who continued the colonization, who profited from the colonization. And now in this century, those who do not just further colonize the Chamorro people, but actively keep them from decolonizing. These individuals and institutions continue the colonization by placing themselves ahead of the very people who preceded them. Please don't be part of the gallery of faces. In the course of human history, Guahan may not be all that unique. We all bear witness to and suffer from duplicity, self-interest framed as assistance to others, and subjecting people to danger while calling it protection. For indigenous peoples and for people who have historically been enslaved, the natural moral conscience of humanity called out for attention, for redress, for justice, dealing with the issue of slavery and the racism that supported it, and confronting the matter of colonialism and the political structures that made it possible have commanded worldwide attention for the past 2 centuries. These injustices of racism and colonialism are among the evils which have fueled the international movement of human rights, of fundamental principles and rights which are part of being human and which have been denied by others. This energy contributed to the creation of the United Nations, underlies the decolonization movement of the 20th century, and the continuing attempt to apply the principles, even the principles outlined in the American Declaration of Independence, but yet to be fully applied to those areas which are under the American flag, like ours. Colonialism in Guam is not an historical phenomena that we just acknowledge. It is a living, breathing system that is present in the political structure that we inhabit, in the external forces that are present, in the systems of economic domination and geostrategic self-interest that we experience. Much of the time, we just make do. We adjust, we accommodate, and we survive, and we're still here. We do not engage in violent action or harsh words, but we never forget. In the name of the nearly 4,000 years of Chamorro existence, we cannot forget. Here in Guahan, there comes a time when the fundamental nature of this colonialism is identified and commands us to articulate who we are and where we're at. This is manifested clearly in the Inofresi, a comprehensive statement of principles all of you in the legislature recite, sometimes right after or just before you sing Fanohgi Samoro. Gininimastat kilo na hinasokko. Imastat kilom gi corazon ho. Denimas figo na ninasinyaho. From my highest thought to the deepest parts of my heart and the strongest part of my strength, I pledge to defend all elements of Chamorro resources and life. The central underlying principle of all this is self-determination, the capacity to decide for yourself your exit from colonialism, your governance. It is an acknowledgement of the unique history of the Chamorro people and their relationship to this land and the air we breathe and the land we stand on, who we are in relationship to the Saina, the highest Saina of all. And the fulfillment of this principle is the process of decolonization. Of course, this is made difficult, as outlined by the sponsor, almost impossible by the implementation of U.S. constitutional rule, which now allows the colonizer to decide who can participate in decolonization. Apparently, the colonial power has decided for now, and it could change. It has the authority to do so, that anyone who is a U.S. citizen and a resident of Guam for at least 30 days is entitled to overcome all of the above, the weight of Chamorro history, the worldwide decolonization movement, and the obligation that we freely take in reciting the Inofresi. The Davis decision ratifies and reinforces colonialism and stands as the latest example of the great historical and political deception of our time. This is where we're at today. In the name of political expediency, some of you may wish to ignore this deception. In the name of timeliness, some of you may want to surrender the timeless principles that are outlined in the Inofresi. But that deception is now being further ratified, not by decisions from Washington, D.C., or the imposition of representatives of colonial government. It is embodied in Bill 242. It is being proposed in front of the Guam legislature and being seriously considered by members of this august body. Only you can decide whether you want to take the side of justice and decolonization or accept the latest imposition on the Chamorro people. Only you can stand boldly for the Chamorro people or accept the powers that be, even if you know intuitively in your heart of hearts that these powers are being exercised in complete opposition to the Inofresi which you recite. There will be few moments where this historical injustice collides with political institutions, where the proud history of the Chamorro people is again deliberately ignored or openly contradicted. This is such a moment. When you consider the bill, do not just listen to the arguments of the present. Listen to the echoes of history that come to you. Listen to the echoes of history that reverberate in these very halls, which gnaw at your conscience, that come to you because of activists past and present. And these voices and these echoes tell you to stand up for the Chamorro people. Fanohgi Chamorro. Remind you again of the solemn pledge of the Inofresi. Do not support this bill. Por favor. Munga in the name of the Tautotano. Renuncia in the language of one of our colonizers, Hindi in a neighboring and related language. Never, never again in English, plain enough for all of us to understand. Si tu smasi ni tempo mo.
Thank you, Doc. Good. Do we still have Dr. Underwood on Zoom? I was going to open up the questioning my
I'm here.
colleagues. So, yeah, Dr. Underwood, yeah, before you leave us, I'll open up the questioning from, we have any questions from our colleagues. Senator Parkinson, do you have any questions for Dr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Underwood. I believe in following precedents and paths followed that we know are successful. And so I would like to ask, is there any model territory that we can potentially follow that has successfully used native inhabitants as a requirement for the votes? Has there ever been any UN-backed plebiscite that has used this mechanism and been successful in decolonization?
You know, as you have indicated, Senator Parkinson, Guam has articulated a very unique and particular path. And so that path, I believe, is made possible by the activism that is apparent in the island and the strength of the Chamorro experience. It's also true that the kind of vote that we are talking about is also possible by the U.S. allowing it or endorsing it to happen. Now, what you're talking about in terms of native participation, the most recent example, and it hasn't been fully resolved, continues to be the issue of how New Caledonia is going to be dealt with. I know there's conversations there about length of time and you know, what you do with people who have been, French people who have been in New Caledonia for generation upon generation. But even that conversation is primarily motivated by the desire and the impetus to reserve that right for the indigenous people of New Caledonia. So I think that, of course, it is unique in that sense. And, you know, in many instances, had this been done, this would not been, if that's been done early in its existence, then it would not have been an issue, as it is in some other territories where the overwhelming majority of the population are the indigenous or are thought to be the natives of that territory or that area. It doesn't become an issue. It is, in fact, an issue here because of the very nature of the demographic trends that you have outlined. So how do you resolve that issue creatively? You are appealing to law, and you are appealing to legal decision. And we, and myself, I'm appealing to your sense of conscience and your sense of history. How do you apply that sense of conscience and sense of history and make it come to life in the context of law? It's not easy. And you yourself has articulated it as being very unique to Guam. And in fact, I celebrate that uniqueness.
With respect, sir, I'm not appealing to law. I'm trying to find efficacy. Where has this method ever succeeded in achieving decolonization? Because from what I understand, even for the New Caledonia one, there is a residency requirement there. So I just want to be clear. Has there ever been any place anywhere in the world, in any of the history of the entire planet, that has been able to achieve decolonization using a native inhabitant vote? Or is our approach completely novel to the history?
I believe that our approach is novel to the history because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And the same thing is occurring inside the case of New Caledonia as well. And that continues to be a live conversation. and a source of massive discontent. And that will be a source of massive discontent here in Guam unless we resolve it in our own novel way.
Okay, and I just want to be very clear for the record, sir. Your testimony is that using a native inhabitant restriction on voting has never led...
Your senator. No, Senator. My testimony stands on its own.
I apologize.
Your
answer to my question...
Please do not rephrase my testimony. I have seriously avoided trying to characterize anything you have said. In terms of interpreting your intent.
I'm just trying to be clear on what the substance of your answer is. I really want to try to not mischaracterize your position, and that's why I'm asking this question, because I want to be very clear about what the answer is.
Okay. If you want to come to a fruitful conclusion, this is what I recommend, Senator. Withdraw the bill and let's have a panel of conversation about it.
All right, and thank you once again, Dr. Underwood, for answering our questions on this panel and coming to the People's House to make this testimony to us. And I don't think I have any further questions. Thank you very much, sir, and safe journeys.
Thank you, Senator Parkinson. Senator Terlai, you have any questions for Dr. Underwood?
No questions, Dr. Underwood. Jesus Masi, loud and clear.
Thank you, Senator Lai. Senator Calvo, do you have any questions for Dr. Underwood?
No question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Dr. Underwood for his testimony.
Thank you, Senator Calvo. Senator Taitigui, do you have any questions for Dr. Underwood?
Sujus Masi, Mr. Chair, and good morning to my colleagues, as well as everybody here this morning. Thank you so much. Dr. Underwood, thank you so much for being there always and inspiring the next generation to keep this legacy going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Thank you for joining us. Also, Senator Borja, any questions for Dr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Underwood.
Senator Batalto, thank you for joining us. Any questions for Dr. Underwood?
Yes, I do, actually. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Underwood, for your testimony this morning. I was listening on my way here from Talafofo. I just wanted to ask you just a quick question. Recognizing that the Organic Act authorizes Guam to present a constitution to the president, what's your take on the work to bring about, either through the Commission on Decolonization or the government as a whole, have they put forward to help generate the discussion and any follow-up actions on a Guam constitution subsequent to the draft of such document, which was approved back in September of 1977?
Well, the Constitution, thank you for that question, Senator. The Constitution is a slightly different set of circumstances because it was proposed, that legislation which authorized the creation of the Constitution came from Congress, simultaneously the Virgin Islands and Guam. And the issues that pertain to the failure of the Constitution, and of course I was part of that team of individuals who defeated the Constitution, was that you needed to determine your political status first before you decide the Constitution. This is the order in which the United States itself came into being. It became independent, and then it subsequently decided its Constitution. Parenthetically, the Virgin Islands has decided upon the first failure to reintroduce a constitutional convention. I think they're currently on their 6th convention. I would surmise, based on that experience, in combination with the experience that we had in Guam, that that's probably not a viable approach.
All right, thank you, Dr. Underwood, for your input and your testimony today, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Batal. Dr. Underwood, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Dr. Underwood's my neighbor as well. I was going to say, wow, that background doesn't look like our neighborhood. But anyway,
That's right. You know, Senator, I forgot to say that I'm representing Tamuning Lohaso. But, you know, I can't say I'm representing all of Tamuning because I have neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again for joining us this morning. Before we start, can we have, I know Annie Camacho, she's just providing written testimony. Jaren Saralu, okay, you can join us, yeah. And also Ken Leonger will be providing oral testimony as well. That being said, okay, Senator Estevez, you can begin. Thank you very much. Again, please state your name and
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Cizos Basi, Mr. Chairman, Gualsi Fernando Esteves. I'm testifying on my own accord, on my behalf. Honorable Senators, thank you for being here today and having this hearing. With respect to many people following me, I'm cutting more than half of my testimony out, and I'll be presenting what I have today orally. This matter has exceptional meaning for me, and I oppose it with the deepest recesses of my soul. As a Chamorro, as a father, I have a sacred duty to protect, defend, and care for our ancestral homeland, for my children and their descendants. This is my singular purpose in life. For them, and by extension, to all of the children and people who call Guam home. I wake up and go to sleep concerned for my island. However, there's a line. I understand, I sympathize, and I empathize with others, with people who call Guam home. I've heard it, and it's reasonable, I hear it. They've lived here for a long time. They pay taxes here. They've started businesses here. They've raised their families here. And I wholeheartedly respect that. To some, Guam is just a place. To others, Guam is home. Loti malefa torus hamzu. Para itaw-taw-tanu. Diretsu gimafen nyagwi mami. Zantanu imen samoru. Lotanu isainan mami iguahan. This isn't a political matter. This is not a political matter. This is sacrosanct. It's a matter of survival, an assertion of our human rights as Guam's native peoples to determine the future of our ancestral homeland. For centuries, decisions have been made on the other side of the world, shaping our destiny, regulating our culture, deciding who comes and who goes upon our borders and shores while diluting the voice of Chamorro people. And throughout the centuries, a question has remained unanswered. What do Guam's native people want for their future? One question, one single question that belongs to us. One sacred thing. And where are we now? Where our core value of Anafa Maulik is misunderstood and turned against us. It's as though I've welcomed you into my home. You sit and smile at the table with my family, eat my food as I give you all the hospitality and care I can. And then you steal from me, my family, my children. It's a betrayal. The arrogance. Kohazi how? Who are you, Senator, to decide on the future of the Chamorro people? In closing, behind the smiles, warm greetings, genuine heart for the community, and love we have as a people for all people on Guam, we are a people who have suffered multiple near extinction events. and for over 4,000 years have endured here in spite of it all. That is what I'll carry with me into the voting booth as I think about the future of survival of the next 4,000 years. What will you carry with you into the voting booth if you can vote? What will you carry? While shamelessly wearing that sanahi and spitting on my face. Biba tau tau tanu.
Thank you, Senator Estevez. Ron Laguanyo, Hagabaga.
Benakati kulu. Sabi agang imanay nata. No fanggay ki gwini. Sanami. Okay. Guagangi manakilo. Hilago. Hadza. Lujan. Zangkatan. Manggaigi haga gwini pogu na lolokluk gini halum. Manggaigi mani luta gwini. Atan siya. Na mago festi. Gaigi na lolokluk i corazono. Ihakao, anu lili toro hamdu, maneluhu, manaynaho. Ginindi, antine manaynata na usasangan esti. Matu di umpatsa, i corazono, seluta. Yang toro i manelo ni manggagi gini naman anuk. Megay biyay malofan. Da megay ti man anuk. Lo estigi pago na sena maguf naman anok. Tanti iman hobin sta gulo para imanamko. Ugagaw hamzu akada uno kita hamzu na en munga matsogi estina malabida. Edzaw gagaw ginin hamzu Anok estama testigo si Dr. Robert Underwood todo gifino Inglaterra. Ta todo duni manatatig wini sempia un hungok todo ipuntunia gifino makolonisa. Edzigi natiu na sesedbi enno ifino Inglaterra sa ginin enno loki palabrang kolonisa. Ukakarga mona ginini antini manaynata na parata munga esti mane luhu. Todo samdo ni man matatatsung hulo. Sa musesedi esti. Sa musesedi estifan. Hami, hita gini, pataditin mina. Tidminan may sahit, tatsogi, hafatu may mano, idiritsota. Diretsu esti para natibo. Panhongi, enigi. Tatibay na serbi ifino mizo, Pino kolonisa para bempata i mensahe. Estige nagaigitsu gini pabena ano kamsu na lalalaham man lalalaham gi tatatid na tempo tatatid na pulan Megagay toti na tempo. Ukakat ga eno. Na anti gini ni manay nata. Mapega gini tanotas ti. Hitat pata dimitan maisayet. Para ta sonik idiritsota. Para hita ni manaw tau-tano. Hita ni manaw tau-tano. Ti debi di haji o halomaginer si fulano. Za o disidi idiritsota. Anok gimatan niya. Atan estisya ni maniluta. Hindi ge. Atan. Sa kumu estima pasa. Megay malingum mizu. Di manaftatsung amzo ganaulo. Tadong esti. Fiwa sangan. Makat esti o kakat ga. Sa kada dia sto ahasu. Ima notati. Fino ihila ima nona. Enigi tatsotsonik. Patafan lala maniluhu. Hita, esta mahahat mi ni todo tau-tau. Tau-tau san hijung. Itano, matsutsuli ginin. Haji siya, man mafatu gini magi. Tadzap pudetta, malingo todo. Ifin fresh ifino, Doc Robert Underwood. Kaya gito do sustansyan niya gwi. Defendi eno, fanatsu para eno. Zamunga masedi esti. Enakadada ifinoho, sama natati mamalo. Lo na maguf pada todo samzu ni manggay gwini. Hutu na todo samzu. Manay luhu za manay nahu. Edza.
Smasi Ron. David Herrera. Agapago.
Testemunho contrário para a propõe era o Bill 242-38, que entrega para o 38 na legislatura, Metcolis Ribeiro 18, 2026.
Por favor, mensahe nanmo.
Esta gaigyo bueno senador dispensa.
Thank you.
Manana si Jesus honorable senador jan senadoras na anu si David Babauta Herrera. Za tumatatsuzu gime nan mizu put respetu zan fit mi na hu kokontra este na mapropoponi i Bill 242-38. Este na situasyon ahi tiput para uma tsanda i manman bobota ahi tipropo matsanda i situasyon gwini put i para uma dikolonisa hita ni man natibo na taw-taw-tano para uma dikolonisa ay ti para ta no tsanda i otruni man mambobota zangi para todo ha ufan man bota sempre ennaw na mahafud inaftan idiretsota hita ni man natibo irasa ni tauto Marianas i manemoro. Está claro na tiput rasa esti i punto gwini para ma dikolonisa i natibo. Talo besangan na ipunto gwini para uma dikolonisa i natibo. Claro zanagang. Zangin tima kolonisa hao para hafa na rason na para unfambota. No, azigi question. Zangin tima kolonisa hao na kalizano hafa pudet mo na para undisidi para hami. Pues esta hagasit man mananga. Esta no 500 años para ta X votación ni para ta dikolonisa hita ni natibo ni taw-taw-tano. Esta dangkulo na si Jesus Masi ni timpun mizu no honorable chairman no Jesse Lujan no zan para tumugi i Bill 242-38 senador Will Parkinson si Jesus Masi zan para todos i senador zan senadoras dangkulo na si Jesus Masi no esta kiman alihit no tatlo hulu gisabanan adulup para haji i binindisi ni Guella za ni Guello ni para organiste na eleksyon biba 38 na legislatura biba Tauto Marianas biba decolonization na komite si Sinod Melvin Wampat Botra akunsigi por favor Senhor Melvin, sa Godbu zan fazi su mimizu ni komisyon i decolonization. Si Jesus Masi.
This is Señor Herrera. Vic.
Iinifresi, iinifresi. Gini mastakilo gihina soko, i mastakilo gi corazonho, tani mas figo na ninasinyahu. O fresin maisazo para me proteger, tanu defendi, i hinengi, i cultura, i lenguaje, i aire, i han, tani tanu tomoro. Ni eden shako direto gini nas duas tata. Estiu afirma, ilu Biblia, tani bandirau i bandera guaha. Viva! Viva!
Victoria Lola, young girl.
Hafaday, senators and all gathered here, Cesar Masi, for creating this space for our people to give voice and full opposition to this bill. Before I speak, I want to acknowledge the incredible presence of history in this room. I sit next to members of the Young Men's League of Guam, who is the longest nonprofit organization in our community that was founded because of the racism of naval men who refused to allow them entry into civic organizations solely because they were Chamorro, in spaces where decisions about our people were made and our people were barred from. That was the beginning of US governance of this island. From the beginning, we have been barred from spaces where decisions about us, our future, our land, our survival have been made without our consent and without our presence, and that is how this organization was founded, and they are here today continuing to uphold the right of the Chamorro people to make decisions for ourselves in our homeland, in our language, and I want to commend them for that. Also in this room, and as we heard earlier, testimony from Dr. Robert Underwood, are members of the Organization of People for Indigenous Rights who very loudly protested the 1982 plebiscite you continually refer to, which, by the way, had the lowest voter turnout at that point in Guam's history, when Guam elections, which we were only really given the ability to vote for our own governors in 1970, 12 years deep. So as you imagine, those elections had major voter turnout. The voter turnout we see now is nothing compared to that era where we valued the right to vote. In protest, that election did not have the voter turnout it should have because of what you point out. Even then, organizing Chamorros had resisted the idea that all people be allowed to vote in that election. You also pointed out that universal suffrage is the only way to get Congress to acknowledge this action. Even though there was universal suffrage in that election for the Draft Commonwealth Act, for the first Constitution, Congress did not respect the will of the people of Guam, no matter who voted. So remember that as we proceed. Universal suffrage does not equate respect from Congress, nor has it been given to us either. So I also want to acknowledge the members of Nation Chamorro who are present here as well and continued this fight, and all the many other organizations today of young people also here continuing this fight, because it is integral to understand that this is not just about following the rules of the colonizer. It is an issue of justice. The Chamorro people were colonized. To decolonize, we must respect their right and their voice, period. The native inhabitant definition in our law is based on citizenship. It is not a race-based definition. Our law follows the UN international law. It is those who were made citizens by the signing of the Organic Act and their descendants. So the point that there's no other precedent for native inhabitant votes is wrong. There actually are other places, as pointed out by Dr. Underwood, currently even in New Caledonia, where date-based eligibility has succeeded and been upheld by the United Nations. And in every United Nations annual amendment, they uphold our right as well and our choice for this distinction of native inhabitants based on those made citizens by the signing of the Organic Act. So it is not solely a native inhabitant vote. It acknowledges that in 1950, when we were made citizens by the signing of the Organic Act without our consent, that is our most recent act of colonization, and therefore those who were subjected to that act should be respected in their right to decide how to move forward for their future, period. The reason that the other countries were allowed to vote at that time is that majority of those who exercised decolonization did it immediately after they were allowed to. And so their communities were not changed as ours has been. We are one of the longest colonized places in the world. So we are a unique case. We have to have pride in our own decisions for what is best for our community. It is not best for our community to continue this injustice just because we are afraid of US law. US law only applies to us when they want it to. So many more of our rights as a community have been denied us. Why deny Chamorro people this right? So those are just my points of discussion based on some of the points made here already. I'm actually here to represent the Commission on Decolonization. As a board member of the Commission on Decolonization, I'm going to transition and read their official statement. Sizos Masi. The Commission on Decolonization submits this testimony against Bill number 242-38. Chamorros have lived in the Marianas Archipelago for nearly 4,000 years, developing a complex civilization and rich culture long before the arrival of colonization. Over 500 years ago, the well-being of the Chamorro people as they knew it was completely disrupted by colonization under Spain, Japan, and presently the United States. Colonization has threatened the very existence of the Chamorro people. Yet we have not only survived, but thrived. Time and time again, we have proven that we are ready and more than capable of being self-sufficient and attaining full self-government despite counter-narratives on our inability to do so. Let us be clear. The right of self-determination belongs to those who were colonized. In our case, the native inhabitants of Guahan, and most especially the indigenous Chamorro people. It is up to this disenfranchised group to voice their political aspirations and lay a path for our island's political future. As a founding member of the United Nations, the United States has recognized self-determination of peoples as a fundamental human right and foundational principle of the modern international system of governance. Colonization has been a historical impediment to the exercise of this right. Notably, UN Resolution 1514 asserts that alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights and is contrary to the Charter of the United Nations. Today, the US federal government's possession and administration of Guahan as an unincorporated organized territory runs counter to the pursuit of a fundamental human right for a people who have unjustly endured colonial domination and exploitation. Therefore, it is up to us, the people of this island, to advocate and hold our leaders accountable to respect the rights of the native inhabitants of Guahan. Today, the exercise of self-determination for the colonized people of Guahan is being challenged and stifled by Senator Parkinson's proposed bill. This bill aims to erase the continued struggle of the native inhabitants of Guahan to assert and exercise an internationally recognized human right. Last year, our island commemorated the 75th anniversary of the passage of the Organic Act of Guam. The passage of this federal act was a product of staunch Chamorro-led activism by those who wished for greater equality and equity amidst a period of inequitable governance administered by the United States. Despite what it achieved, it was passed by the U.S. federal government without the expressed approval of our island's people. This moment in history marks a specific instance where the colonized people of Guam were again denied the right to express their political aspirations. Notably, the government of Guam has used the passage of the Organic Act to define native inhabitants, who are those persons who became U.S. citizens by virtue of the authority and enactment of the 1950 Organic Act of Guam and descendants of those persons. It should be recognized that this classification is predominantly composed of the indigenous Chamorro people of Guahan, but also includes individuals of other ethnic backgrounds who were made U.S. citizens by the Act. The ruling in Davis versus Guam found that the native inhabitant voter criteria is unconstitutional, with ancestry being a proxy for race. However, we maintain that the definition of native inhabitants is in fact time-based and applies to Chamorros and non-indigenous residents of Guahan made citizens by the Organic Act of Guam. The proposed bill is in an attempt to move forward with a political status plebiscite following the narrow and biased constraints established by U.S. constitutional law. It is inherently flawed because it erases the struggle of the colonized people of Guahan, most especially the Chamorro people who have endured centuries of external subjugation and have yet to exercise their right to self-determination while watching peoples and nations around the world be allowed to do so. The board of the Commission on Decolonization has maintained the position that eligibility to vote in a political status plebiscite should be open exclusively to the native inhabitants of Guahan. In spite of the U.S. federal court system rendering the native inhabitant classification as unconstitutional under domestic law, the federal government has made an express commitment to assist Guahan in the international arena. In 1946, the United States willingly placed Guahan on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories. Yet 70 years later, we remain one of only 17 non-self-governing territories who have yet to exercise self-determination and achieve a full measure of self-government and genuine sovereignty. By signing the UN Charter, the U.S. federal government must uphold its responsibility to take due account to the political aspirations of the peoples and to assist them in the progressive development of their free political institutions. Due to their inaction, it has become our responsibility to hold the United States accountable to their long-standing and international commitment to the colonized people of Guahan. The stagnation of Guahan's decolonization and resolution of our political status lies with the United States. This, however, does not mean that we have to succumb to the confines set before us and decolonize on the terms set by our colonizer. The proposed bill is not just a solution in considering the plight of Chamorros in their homeland, nor is it the only option to address the legal constraints placed on holding a political status plebiscite. We recommend that our leadership in the government of Guam directly petition the United States federal government to respect and allow for the exercise of self-determination by the native inhabitants of Guahan based upon the unique context of our island's culture and history. Another option is for our local government to appeal to the international court system. Given the historical commitments made by the federal government, our local government can hold the United States accountable to their obligations to develop and advance Guahan's political status with a plebiscite for the colonized people of Guahan. Unlike the proposed bill, these two alternatives uphold the inalienable right for a people that have endured centuries of colonization. We must recognize that self-determination is crucial and an act of restorative justice, but it is only the first step. Once it has been exercised through a Chamorro-led vote, it will be up to all those who call our island home to shape its future. To build a sovereign Guahan that is shaped by the desires and interests of our people. Thus, the board's opposition to Bill 242 should not be perceived as being exclusionary. Rather, it is rooted in safeguarding and respecting the dignity of our island's native inhabitants, especially the Chamorro people, ending incessant colonial control through a genuine act of self-determination, and ushering forth a better and more just vision of Guahan. It is with a profound sense of duty to Guahan and her people that the Board of the Commission on Decolonization opposes Bill 242-38. We urge you and the fellow representatives of the 38th Guam legislature to reject the measure as it moves our island further away from achieving a genuine act of self-determination that is led by the Chamorro people. As one voice, we must take a stand and tell the federal government that the decolonization of Guahan cannot take place without censoring Chamorros and the colonized people of our island and ascertaining their political aspirations. We must correct the historical injustice of 500 years of colonization and the denial of sovereignty the right way. Take the first step and vote against Bill 242-38. Sizois and Sinamasi.
Thank you very much, Lolo. Annie? Here.
Hafa Senators. My name is Annie Faye Camacho from the village of Mongmong and Maiti, and today I represent Independent Guahan. And in front of me right now is a petition that we circulated in opposition of this bill. And as of 7 a.m. this morning, when we printed these signatures, it was 1,820 signatures in opposition of this bill. And as I checked my phone sitting here, the number has grown to 1,870. This petition is growing because this opposition is growing. And what I'm going to read is the letter that we wrote for that petition. We, the undersigned, expressed our steadfast opposition to Bill 242-38, which eliminates the ability of the Chamorro people to exercise their internationally recognized right to self-determination. The bill seeks to open eligibility to participate in a decolonization plebiscite to all registered Guahan voters. One merely has to have lived on the island for 30 days to establish residency and be able to register to vote in Guahan's elections. This means that new or even temporary residents with no ancestral, cultural, or historical ties to the land, to the island, and who have not suffered from the injustices of its colonization would be eligible to participate in a decolonization plebiscite. A decolonization plebiscite should not be an instrument that further colonizes and disempowers the Chamorro people in their homeland. Instead, it must be a mechanism for restoring justice to the distinct group of people whose right to sovereignty was violated. For centuries, Guahan has remained a non-self-governing territory, and as part of this status, the voices of the Chamorro people have been silenced, ignored, or minimized. A process of decolonization that is meant to move the island towards self-government must begin with respecting the Chamorro people and their right to self-determination, an internationally recognized human right that has been affirmed by nations across the globe. We, the undersigned, recognize how colonization has taken so much from the Chamorro people, who continue to struggle against the legacies of land theft, attacks on culture and language, federal control over local resources, the toxic contamination of our environment, and so much more. In honor of the Chamorro people and carrying on their quest for justice, we will not support any action that violates their rights and dignity and their ability, after centuries of being silenced, to decide Guahan's political future. And to pivot out of representing independent Guahan, I feel the need that I have to speak as just an individual myself, because feeling the energy in this room and just the anger building inside of me, I find it difficult to look at you, because you spent so much time last year with the task forces, with the COD, doing these town halls where we were meant to listen to people. And what you yourself, just a few days ago on The Point, said that the people did not want to budge on the 1950 Native Inhabitant law. Yet here you are saying that I heard the people, but I'm going to ignore it. And I find it difficult to look at you and see you tell us that you are a man of the people and this bill is for the people, when you listen and you didn't listen actually. You heard it, but you disregarded it. You disregarded the people that stood in front of you, village after village. You disregarded the task forces. You disregarded the COD. You disregarded so many people that have told you this is not the way. Your bill is the most destructive way. We can agree that maybe there is a change. Maybe 1950 can change. But the path that you chose is the most destructive, is the one that nobody asked for. So if you want to say that you are a person of the people, that you serve the people, withdraw your bill.
Is that it? Josh?
Buenas, good morning, everybody. Guahusi Josh Florenti. Magay maasid zan hu agradeci todos hamzu for showing up on a workday Wednesday. Sorry it had to be for this bill. I do hope that in the future, as we schedule public hearings that affect our human rights, it's scheduled at a time that's more accessible to working class people. Everybody here took time out of their workday to be here this morning, and I hope these hearings can also be accessible to our students. Our students are all in school, but they should be here testifying on this bill because this does affect their future. So, senators of the committee, so-called representatives, Guahusi Josh Laurenti, I'm a Kulu member of Independent Guahan, which is the community body of the Independence Task Force. This year, we are celebrating 10 years of engagement, education, and movement building in the community, which is a record that no other status can claim, which should say a lot to the people of Guahan about which status is worth fighting for, because there's only one that's been fighting for you. I am also the co-executive director at Guahan Sustainable Culture. I actually work in the bush, except instead of campaigning, I'm helping fight for the food security of our people. So check out GSC at the Food Resiliency Hub, Biba Zotnya, and support your local farmers. I don't want to be here today speaking in opposition to Bill 242. This bill is not worth our breath or the paper that it's printed on. It belongs in the bush. Independent Guahan last year participated in all these so-called town halls, and nothing that people said is represented anywhere in this bill. This bill that disrespects, disempowers, and disappears the Chamorro people for what? To bend over backwards to fit colonial law. I don't bend backwards. I have a spine. Until the day I die, I will use it to stand up for the rights of our people. And if our so-called leaders cannot commit to doing the same, maybe they shouldn't be leading us. Guahan has already decided how we are going to decolonize, and we need leaders who can stand on business. Chamorro self-determination. All locals and their descendants here in 1950, when Congress formally violated our sovereignty with the Organic Act. Self-determination is an internationally recognized human right. Human rights are more fundamental than any so-called constitutional rights, especially those of the country that is actively colonizing us and violating our sovereignty. So if America has a problem with us exercising our human rights, that's America's problem to fix. America has a colonial problem. Meanwhile, we gotta be about us. We gotta be about what's good for Guahan. And what's malak for Chamorros is total malak for Guahan. This bill is not good for Chamorros. Baba na bill. Chamorro self-determination has never meant Chamorros only. It has never been a race-based distinction because Chamorros were not the only ones here in 1950. Chamorro self-determination has always meant that we do this together. Chamorros have a right to self-determine Guahan's future. And everyone who now calls our island home shares the responsibility of building the best version of that future, remembering that these are Chamorro Islands. This is our home. We make others welcome here. And colonialism is a sin precisely because it took advantage of Chamorro hospitality by violating our sovereignty. And that is the injustice that decolonization is meant to fix. This bill doesn't fix anything. It makes everything worse. It only adds to the list of injustices against the Chamorro people. So in closing, and with respect, if you're proud to wear that big sanahi, prove it. Prebahal. Stand up for our rights, stand up for justice on our own terms, and stand up for Chamorro self-determination. Sainamase.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Withdraw this bill.
Thank you, Josh. Chairman?
Buenas todos, Hamzu, sitios mahasi, senador dan senadoria pari torumina pomizu. Gwasi jan salu ginini seng sungziku. And I oppose this bill 242-38. Guam was founded on the resilience and strength of the Chamorro people and our fight against oppression during the Second World War and even before then. Those who became before us envisioned not just the Guam, but a Marianas that stood up for what we believed in and what we wanted for our future. This bill threatens to take away a huge portion of Chamorro rights as it puts our future as an island in the hands of other people. People who do not understand what our people went through in the 400 plus years of colonization by the Spanish, German, Japanese, and now American administrations. It threatens the years of work our Manamkup fought and paid their lives for, which is the ability for us, their descendants, the Chamorro people, to choose our own path, whether it be politically, historically, or culturally. During the martial law of the U.S. Navy over Guam from 1898 to 1950, we have seen multiple human rights violations and suppression of our culture, language, and history. Cultural traditions were severely restricted. Students and adults alike in schools, workplaces, and public spaces were not allowed to speak Chamorro. Students especially were subjugated to punishment if caught doing so. Chamorros are not considered U.S. citizens during that time, but were forced to follow rules and laws implemented by naval governors and leaders who had almost absolute control over every aspect of the people's lives. Now, we have U.S. military projects taking more and more of our island away from locals despite our opposition to said projects. All of this is happening while our government is standing idly by, taking money from the federal government. Bill number 242-38, if enacted, will only strengthen the grip of the U.S. government over our island as we hand them more control over autonomy should the interests of the Chamorro people not be taken into account when others vote on our political status. Section 2G talks about the effect of the vote and is as follows. The result of this legislative submission shall serve as an official expression of the people of Guam on whether the government of Guam should pursue the right to self-determination through a public vote. This section does not, by itself, change Guam's political status or constitute a final political status act, but shall inform executive and legislative policy and subsequent actions consistent with applicable law. What this section blatantly is telling us is this. The Chamorro people's needs will be drowned out by the wants of the U.S. military agendas, political lobbyists, and naturalized citizens who do not understand enough about the importance or significance of self-determination for the island of Guam and our people. The beginning of Section 1 states that the United Nations system continues to classify Guam's political status as unresolved for the purpose of the decolonization framework. Our island is in a gray area in terms of political status and identity, with the Legislaturang Guahan stating that the island is recognized internationally as a non-self-governing territory. However, that does not justify the fact that we are suppressing the rights of those affected by the war and their descendants to move forward with determining a political status. We must find an alternative way to move forward in determining our island's political status while still ensuring full consideration of the Chamorro people. Opposition to this bill does not mean we're seeking a Chamorro-only plebiscite. Opposition means fighting against colonialism and fighting for our rights as the descendants of those who had no choice or say in the autocratic governments put in place by the U.S. Navy. It means fighting for what we believe in, just as those before us did. The fight for our voices to be heard never stops, and we stand to make our voices heard now. We, the Chamorro people who were affected directly by war and autocratic governments, and their descendants, want to determine our political identity. Therefore, on this 18th day of February, in the year of our Lord Anno Domini, 2026, we say no to Bill 242-38. Por favor, befaisin hamzu todo. Ekungok kami itatotomu sa estina Bill, timalik para itatota, timalik para itaw na Chamorro, timalik para hamzu hamigini, pues hamzu pues hamigini. Ay, por favor. Sinya befaisin ao gini ni corazon no pues corazon mami. Protehi itanota. Zani costumbreta, zani ilenguahita. Baba Bill, ti maulik para hami, ti maulik para ifamaguonta, zani ifamaguoniha. Juti Bill, por favor, juti.
Thank you, Jaron. Frank Martinez signed in, but he doesn't. Is Frank here? Martinez? Okay. Ken, young girl.
Thank you very much. My name is Ken Leon Guerrero, and as one of the oldest people in this room today, I would like to start by saying that my failure to stand was not a sign of disrespect. It's a sign of osteoarthritis in my knees and hips, and I only stand when it's vital to the defense of the country. Having said that, the title of the quote I wanted to start with, it's in my written testimony, is "Those who failed to learn the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat them" by philosopher George Satayama. But I'm going to have to change that after listening today to a quote by Thomas Paine, one of the patriots who helped in the independence revolution against Britain through his publication of the Common Sense Papers, when he wrote, "Common sense is the least common thing of all." Now, while I've been here and all through my attending the town halls and things, I keep hearing everybody talk about respecting the Chamorro, respecting our elders, respecting the traditions, respecting those who came before us. And yet everybody here is spitting on that respect. because in 1950, 68% of the population of Guam was Chamorro. In 1950, the people of Guam, through their elected politicians, petitioned for integration with the United States. That wasn't unusual, because under the Treaty of Paris, all the nations that were transferred to custody of the United States had options. They could petition for political status change through the US Congress. In 1901, Cuba petitioned Congress for independence. It was granted in 1903. In 1936, the Philippines petitioned for independence. It was granted in 1946. In 1950, the people of Guam petitioned for integration with the United States, and it was granted. The people of Guam, the ancestors, my ancestors, your ancestors, came together as a people and went to the US Congress in an effort to get a better, provide a better life for their children. And I know that because my grandfather was active in that movement back then and spoke about it, as have many others who have passed. Now, I'm 72 years old. I'm probably the oldest person in this room right now. But one thing, no? Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the oldest person. But here is some indisputable facts. The Committee of Decolonization has refused to engage the US Congress. And we know that the only path to any political status change is going to be through the US Congress. I support this bill because it fixes one of the many defects, and I hope the rest will be fixed in time, but I do support passage because we as a people in 1950 said we want to integrate with the United States and we want the benefits of the United States to be put forth for our people, and we've got them. Now, when I meet all these young independentistas and they tell me that we don't have the same rights as people in the United States, I ask them, well, what rights are you denied? They almost always say the same thing. I can't vote for president. Really? There's only 538 people of the 380 million people in the United States to get to vote for president. So that's not a valid claim. Under the UN Charter, under Principle 9, we are already a self-governing entity. So for the committee and everybody else to claim we are non-self-governing, who are you? You are representatives elected by the people of Guam to sit in a deliberative body to create and pass laws for the benefit of Guam. So that pretty much says that we are a self-governing entity. You want an example of a non-self-governing entity? All you have to do is look at Cuba, North Korea. Now I say Cuba because they are not self-governing anymore, not since the 60s. But North Korea, they're not self-governing. So China, they're not self-governing. So we don't have to go far to look at good definitions for non-self-governing entities. Guam, we have the ability to change our political status. We have the ability to claim more power for Guam if we have the political will. Example, we've had the power to delink from the US IRS system since the 1980s, but we don't have the political will to do it. We had the right to elect our own governor after we petitioned Congress for the right to elect our own government. We as a people have the ability to petition Congress for any changes we want to our political status, and we're not going to do it by going to the United Nations or going to the unrepresentative people's organization at whatever luxury resort they're meeting at this year. If we want to make lasting change, the first step is passage of 242 to make sure that we do not discriminate against anybody, because one of the proposals the Committee on Decolonization has is they want us to have our congressional representative go to the US Congress and ask Congress
to give Guam the right to discriminate against its own people. I don't think that's going to fly well. So, in conclusion, yes, you are.
Order, please. Order. 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 Order, please. Order, please. Thank you.
No.
Proceed.
Don't I get to say my conclusion?
Yes.
In conclusion, since 1899, the people of Guam have had the power to control our political status. We have to do it through the process that was laid before us, as Cuba did and the Philippines did, and as our ancestors did in 1950. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ongaro. Thank you. Before I ask the senators for questions, we have two students from GW High School that would like to present their testimony. And again, if we can make room, Sarge, do we have two more chairs for the students? Allow them. Yeah. But panel, please don't leave, because I want to open up to. Don't leave. I want to just open up the for questions from the senators. I just want to allow the two students, because they need to get back to school. Go ahead and identify yourselves, and you can proceed.
Hafade, my name is Nessa Alere.
Hafade Guahusi Reynold Borja.
We are here on behalf of Youth for Decolonization, a student organization established in George Washington High School dedicated to advocating for indigenous rights, environmental protection, and the advancement of political sovereignty for Guahan. We respectfully submit this testimony to express our position on Bill 242-38. Our organization is composed of students from diverse ethnic backgrounds, and the voices reflected in this testimony represent that diversity. Bill number 242-38 is presented as a measure to protect constitutional voting rights by removing ancestry-based restrictions. Although equality under the law is important, this bill goes far beyond technical compliance. It fundamentally changes who decides Guam's political future, and in doing so, it risks undermining Chamorro's self-determination. Guam already lacks full representation in the federal government. Our delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives can speak and serve on committees, but it cannot vote on final legislation. If Guam is now expected to expand voting eligibility for a political status plebiscite to all U.S. citizens, then fairness demands full voting rights in Congress as well. We should not accept diminished representation while broadening participation in decisions that directly affect our sovereignty. At its core, this issue is about self-determination. The right to self-determination exists to correct historical injustice. The Chamorro people endured colonization, land dispossession, militarization, forced assimilation, and political marginalization without consent. U.S. citizenship was imposed. Sovereignty shifted through imperial transfers without Chamorro approval. The conversation about Guam's political status did not arise from mutual agreement. It arose from centuries of colonial control. Supporters of Bill 242-38 argue that all legally registered voters in Guahan should participate because decolonization would affect everyone. They view expanded eligibility as inclusive and democratic. However, inclusion in this context creates a serious contradiction. If the purpose of the plebiscite is to restore political power to a colonized people, then expanding the vote to anyone who meets a 30-day residency requirement shifts the focus away from those whose rights were originally denied. Self-determination must first belong to the colonized. When the decision of an indigenous people can be outweighed by those who do not share their history of dispossession, the process no longer centers on justice. It centers on procedural equality. Equal voting power does not always mean equitable justice.
This bill follows the ruling in Davis v. Guam, which declared previous voter qualifications unconstitutional under US law. But compliance with a federal court decision that does not automatically equate to justice. The US legal framework itself emerged from the same colonial system that denied Chamorro self-determination. Using the 15th Amendment, an amendment designed to prevent racial equality to block indigenous self-determination raises serious moral concerns. It transformed an anti-discrimination safeguard into a barrier against people exercising an internationally recognized human right. The right to self-determination has long been affirmed by institutions such as the United Nations, particularly in decolonization principles like Resolution 1514. That principle was created specifically for territories like Guam, places whose political futures were redirected by empire and military strategy. Self-determination was never meant to erase the voices of indigenous people. It was meant to restore them. Even those who are not Chamorro but live on Guam may feel conflicted about having equal authority over this decision. Guam is home to many cultures and communities, and all who build their lives here deserve respect. However, respect for diversity should not come at the cost of erasing indigenous political rights. Expanding the vote without safeguarding Chamorro centrality speaks repeating the very marginalization the plebiscite seeks to correct. The author of this bill, Senator Parkinson, has argued that expediency is necessary and has referenced global instability as justifications for moving quickly. But an issue unresolved for more than a century cannot be rushed under the guise of urgency. Expediency does not justify sacrificing principle. A process rooted in justice must remain rooted in those most affected. Bill 242-38 may resolve a constitutional technicality, but it creates a deeper moral problem. It takes decision grounded in Chamorro suffering and history and opens it to those who were never denied the right in the first place. Decolonization is not simply an administrative exercise, it is a restoration of political dignity. For these reasons, we stand opposed to Bill number 242-38. As written, decisions about Guam's political status must protect the human rights of the indigenous self-determination. If this process is meant to restore sovereignty and justice, then it remains centered on the Chamorro people. The issue is too important to dilute. It deserves careful thought and historical honesty, moral courage. We strongly urge lawmakers to reconsider this bill and ensure Guam's path forward honors both democracy and the foundational right of the Chamorro people to decide their own future. This is the only way we can ensure the protection and preservation for our island's future and for future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janessa and Renaud. Now I'm going to ask the Senator. Senator Parkinson, do you have any questions for the panel?
No questions, sir.
Okay. Senator Terlahi, any questions for the panel?
No questions, but maybe for the GW students, if I can just ask, you believe what you just read to us? I really appreciate the depth that you've gone into and commend all of your group. You said you come from a diverse group of students. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming here, and that the existence, in fact, of your organization at school is very enlightening. And thank you to all of you who testified today. I thought your testimonies were very insightful.
Thank you, Senator Lai. Senator Calvo.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say thank you to all the individuals that rendered their testimony so far. And I know there's a lot more testimonies to go, and I look forward to hearing and reading all of it. Very insightful, very heartfelt testimonies. But obviously, as lawmakers, we're here to listen to every single person that's here in the room and balance everything. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Calvo. Senator Taitagui.
Sijus Masi, everyone who testified so far. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else who comes up. Even if you didn't decide to come and speak and testify, and if you're just here for support, I hope that you get it in your heart to step up at the table because your voice needs to be heard. So don't be shy. We're not going to, make you feel uncomfortable at all. But if you feel like you want to come up, please do. Just sign up on the sheet and come and testify. But I, again, greatly appreciate the next generation, the youth, again, as Senator Chalahi mentioned, being here, passing it on, our Manamkus who are in the audience, to pass on that knowledge and continue to teach the next generation to continue to fight for who we are. Chamorro. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Senator Borja.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions, but really thank you to the community and the groups, the students that have come out. The message is very clear. Not just because of this public hearing, but, again, we'll continue to listen and engage. And, we look forward to, not look forward, but we'll see where this bill goes. But at least from an initial observation, and I will share, like, even after the town halls, I kind of followed along as the town halls were happening with Senator Parkinson and the bill being introduced, and so of course it was a little. Like some have shared, it's a little different from what what was collected at the town hall. So again, we'll continue to listen to the testimony from everybody else that has shown up today, and those have been submitted, and then we'll go from there. The committee will act on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Borja. Senator Batauto.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for everyone for being here and the panel specifically. I just wanted to point out to our young friends from GW. This public hearing allows all of us to hear your voice, whether you support a bill or not. And so what we're here to do, our task, is to take all of this in, go back into committee, work with entities like the Commission to be able to make policy change. So I appreciate your effort. I hope you go back to school today with a note from somebody here, but I would hope that you will go back eager to participate in other public policy things that might affect you and your classmates at GW. So I just wanted to put that out there for the most part. I just want to ask, if I can, to Lola. Lola, thank you for your presentation on behalf of the Commission. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Dr. Underwood. Recognizing that the Organic Act of Guam authorizes Guam to present a constitution to the President of the United States, what exactly has the Commission on Decolonization, or in your opinion, the government of Guam as a whole, put forward to help generate discussion and follow-up actions on a Guam constitution subsequent to the draft of such document, which was approved back in September of 1977?
Thank you. So first and foremost, if we present a constitution to the federal government without resolving the issue of political status, one of the things the U.S. has upheld is that that constitution must honor the United States' sovereignty over Guam, which continues to deny us sovereignty, which is incredibly important. To not have the final say in decisions about your people, your land, your future is inherently wrong. And so to embark on a constitution that by default must acknowledge U.S. sovereignty over our island is already flawed, period. The first constitution that did pass was denied by Congress because there were aspects of the Constitution that our community did not want to budge on and that Congress did not respect. The second attempt, OPIR particularly, and a movement called Pata Pata, two organizations that came together and organized the community because the community agreed at that point that we needed to determine, first and foremost, the Chamorro people needed to determine what political future we wanted. That is what's been denied us, right? The ability to say, this is the type of future we want, and then build a constitution that respects that. And so that was the failure of the second attempt. Where we're at today is that, as you know, and I think that I would encourage this body to learn more about other US colonies and territories and their attempts at constitutions and plebiscites, because in any attempt that actually would respect and uphold Chamorro land rights, Chamorro fishing rights, our sovereignty will not succeed. So the idea becomes, do we write a constitution that just permanizes our subjugation and colonization, or do we first resolve the heart of the issue, which is, well, who do we want to be? What type of nation do we want to be? What type of political entity do we want to be? And then create the document that guides that. I did a really interesting exercise when I was teaching at the University of Guam. I taught a research writing course, and I had my students research constitutions from all over the world and design a constitution of their own based on that research. And that's one of the advantages that Guahan has, is that there are so many other places in the world and different types of government entities to learn from. And there's also the inherent way in which we as a people have a consensus-based leadership that lasted for 3,500 years before colonialism, that could really guide a government that is successful in leading this beautiful community in this incredible place we call home. One of the greatest limitations is that our leaders have tended to model the US Constitution and have lost sight of so much else. The constitutions of Palau and South Africa, for example, acknowledge in their preambles the injustices that were committed against them, and the Constitution becomes an action which seeks justice and seeks to rectify the harm. So if we engage in a constitution without rectifying the harm, what are we doing? We're permanizing our subjugation, and by default, I could never support that, and nor have any of the activists or organizations before us.
So let me go back to my question then. It goes back to the idea from your so it sounds like from your perspective, nothing has been done since 1977 to, and my original question was to you, because from the commission side, what is commission or the government of Guam, what has been done or put forward to generate more discussion? Your students actually is in a big push, but that's from a student standpoint. I'm talking about from your effort.
Well, there have been I participated in a forum by the Guam Bar.
I'm trying to get that for this particular hearing.
The Guam Bar held a forum in which we presented, why haven't we embarked on a constitution? It was one of the themes for their Law Week. There have been other discussions, but in terms of political attempt, no, because there has been a respect for the failure of the Second Constitutional Convention and vote based on the premise that first we need to determine our political status. So there hasn't been political action, but the conversation hasn't died.
Okay. And that's a great point. This is for this particular policy. I just want to be able to make sure that's captured in the record. And then my last question on behalf of the commission, how specifically has the commission's annual appropriations, at least during the last 5 years, supported travel to Washington, D.C., and corresponding engagement between local leadership and federal officials regarding Guam's political status? And what assistance, if any, has the commission sought from Guam's lone congressional delegate on this particular topic since 2023?
So the commission, the legislature has not approved travel in the budget for the commission, so that there is no travel budget. When the commission does travel, typically by invitation of the United Nations, those instances have been funded by the United Nations. The commission has never taken the position that we do not want to work with Congress, and in fact, in several meetings that has come up, and I know that through the Office of the Governor, there has been engagement. I know that we have engaged even recently in requesting meetings with Congressman Moylan. So the commission has never, it really depends on who's in Congress and their willingness to engage back, but we've always sought meetings, and we've never closed off the importance of needing to engage Congress on this issue. I know that in previous commissions, we've also talked about the idea that in U.S. Congress, there is no actual acknowledgement of the Chamorro people as the indigenous or native people of Guam. And this has come up even in this body dealing with fishing rights, as I brought up earlier. So I don't think that historically our leaders or members of the commission or even our activist community have refused to engage Congress. We need better congressional representatives who are willing to engage on this issue, but politically they've chosen not to.
All right, thank you so much for your answers, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Batalta. Senator Samina, thank you for joining us. Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so Lola, I just have a question for you. Can you explain what it means to be self-governing?
Self-governing means that the will of the people to choose the type of government system that they want is ascertained, and then that government system is then created by the people, and once it has been ascertained, the processes could be determined by a constitution. But in our case, it means that there isn't an administering power that creates the government that the people exist under, if that makes sense. But in a very basic principle, it's that we decide the type of government we want and we carry it out.
Yeah, that's an important point, because people think because we have a government that we elect officials, that means we're self-governing. And so maybe if you can also clarify, why is this government not considered self-governing?
Because okay, and I actually do want to correct or talk about, because I have this unique opportunity of having recently edited the memoir of Governor Ricardo J. Bordallo, whose father had actually gone to appeal to FDR, B.J. Bordallo, and then who had also these were people who were around in 1950, and in his sort of first person point of view, and having been in these discussions and around these leaders, they were not advocating for full integration. They had been advocating for basic rights, and they had felt with everything that the U.S. had shown since 1898, that there was not a support for Chamorro sovereignty at that point. So within the US system, they had felt at a bare minimum, we deserve equal rights and we deserve the right over our land. So I want to clarify that we are not disrespecting those ancestors, because at the heart of what they were fighting for, it was basic human rights and the right for Chamorro people to have a voice and a say. So I want to clarify that. But in answer to your question, Senator, the Organic Act itself was not drafted by or voted on by the people of Guam. The Organic Act was created in response to an act of political resistance in which the Guam Congress members walked out because the U.S. was not giving them real legitimate voice or governance. And it violated the fact that lands had been condemned and we were not citizens. And so that shaming of the United States resulted in an Organic Act that really was not designed by the people, voted on by the people, or even made to give the people true control. That's why we still see some of its limitations in terms of the fact that in 1950, the Organic Act didn't even allow us to vote for governor. So the executive branch was given a lot of power so that the U.S. could maintain power over the island. That is not an act of self-governance. Walking out was an act of public demonstration, but the leaders didn't walk out and say, we want an Organic Act and we approve this, right? There was one person from Guam present in the room, and he did not sign the Organic Act either. And so by definition, that is not an act of self-governance. It was an imposition of power upon our community. And it did not rectify what they were looking for at the heart of the issue, which was equal rights. It gave us a lesser degree of citizenship and allowed the U.S. to then legally continue to condemn and poison our lands.
And so on that note, Lola, did the people of Guam create the U.S. Constitution and all the laws that came after that control this island?
Not at all.
And to your understanding, does federal law supersede local law?
As the member of this body that introduced this law would choose to ascertain, yes, legally at the moment, but I truly believe in the will of the people to come together and do and expect more and demand more. Yeah. We follow what we choose to follow. And yes, that power has been and is going to be, pushed on us, as we saw with the Davis case. But currently, unfortunately, yes. Do we want to accept that further? No.
Yeah, and also the Constitution recognizes, or at least says, there's alien races, which is why they did not provide any kind of they didn't include the territories, right, which Guam is a part of, right, is a territory. They considered those living in Guam as alien races and are inferior to those that are living in the U.S. They said that we could not comprehend these laws, and that at the time the Philippines was a colony, and so they did not. They also categorized all, Puerto Rico, Philippines, Guam, Virgin Islands, all these places as alien races who are inferior in the capacity to understand laws. And so when we talk about, I just want to bring home the point about self-governing, that we are not self-governing because we are controlled by laws that were created by others that are imposed upon us.
And those are the laws that continue to be used against us in this act. So yes, I agree.
Sorry, you can ask, yeah. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that point was brought very clear. So yes, I do appreciate everybody coming out here. I've been here before, in your seat, and to really speak out against, I guess, a lot of unjust actions that are taking place on island. And, I think that, it's considered low-grade warfare to really, push, these sort of policies that really disregard the basis of what is just. And so my hat's off to all of you that have come here to provide testimony, but I also want to encourage you, there's this thing called grit, right? This Dr. Duckworth, Angela Duckworth, and she mentioned there has to be a deliberate practice, right? Deliberate practice. In order to attain what we really want, we have to engage in deliberate practice. And what does that mean? That means there has to be a goal, there has to be effort, and there has to be feedback. And so I know many of you, we come from the same heart and goal. And I think moving forward, we need to think about organizing it further in the ways that we want it, right? So that's just my comments to the community here. Yeah, I know how difficult it is to come out here and advocate and have to speak. We do this in other venues where we're often disregarded, especially with the military, and why should it come from our government? We are the ones that should have control over these things. And so that's the other issue that I want to bring forward, is the militarization of our island is really one of the biggest impediments to reaching our self-determination. And it's important to really kind of look at how it's working within our island, how it's causing this division. There's this thing called divide and conquer, which is really happening to us. And so, I really want to encourage all of you to really understand and just figure out together, in order to move forward. So, thank you.
Senator Tadiwa, you had a follow-up?
Just real quick, Lona, thank you so much for all the information providing. Can you tell us a little bit about Public Law 25-106? Are you familiar with that? That was passed?
May you kindly elaborate?
Okay, it basically is clarify the definition of native inhabitants. It was a bill that was passed in 2000.
At that time, there was a ruling in Hawaii, Rice versus Cayetano. So previous to that, it was clarifying that essentially in Guam's case, this was not a race-based definition. So that was the law that changed it from the Chamorro Registry to the Decolonization Registry, making very clear that those who are considered native inhabitants followed and adhered to the definition in the Organic Act, that they were those who were made citizens by the signing of the Organic Act and their descendants, to make really clear that this was not meant to be a race-based endeavor, but a political endeavor to restore justice to those who had been colonized. It did happen on the heels of Rice versus Cayetano, but the initial Chamorro registry had also been to ascertain as a community how many Chamorros there were and where Chamorros were. And it had been, it had been an important measure, because then in terms of being able to determine and respect land rights, rights over our environment, it was important for us as a community to document that. As we moved forward in this endeavor, it was also incredibly important to show that there was a registry of those who were eligible, so that therefore we could move forward with a plebiscite. I hope I'm representing that history correctly, because I wasn't, part of drafting it, but just my readings of it and my knowledge of it is really to ensure that it was made clear that these were those who had been colonized, and therefore when an act of decolonization occurred, they would be eligible to participate in that act.
Yeah, and since 1950, under the Organic Act, whoever during that time would have the ability to also vote, and their descendants, right?
Correct.
Exactly. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tidyway. Before I call up the next panel, it's going to be obvious that we're going to need more than just this public hearing based on the amount of time that we have, and we're just starting on our second page. We have 11 pages of testimony, and so that being said, because we get not only day assignments, but we get our day and hour assignments. So I'm looking at possibly maybe just doing afternoons, if that best for everybody, the 2 to 5 time slot. So that being said as well, it's looking like maybe 4 or 5 more hearings that we're going to have. And what we're going to do is we have the sign-in sheets, right? So that will spare folks from coming down all the time, especially when you're in the 10th or 11th page. So my staff will go through the names and write it down who's testified, who is yet to testify, and the likelihood that you're going to be in the next hearing or the hearing after that. So you won't have to take time off work and be here at all the public hearings. I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may, just to make recommendations, everyone took their time out today that we can continue this, even through lunch if we have to show the people that we're here to hear them. They took the time out. If we can just continue on, just like we've done on very important
I understand,
measures.
but Senator Borja has the room this afternoon. He's
Oh,
got a
I
public
didn't see
hearing, that's
anything
why.
on the agenda.
Yes. You don't have it?
I don't believe I see a hearing at all.
No, we don't?
At all
No,
today.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sabrina? Senator Bree?
Yeah, there is nothing on the agenda, sir. Just to verify, there's nothing on the agenda for 2
I mean,
o'clock.
if that's the
We can
case,
keep
we're
going.
fine, but that's the schedule that we have, so that's why we cut it off, so, yeah, okay. With that, okay, the next panel, Peter Santos, Steve Amaguin, Sheila Munya, I think it's Anton or Anthony Agun, Johnny Taitano, Laura Sauder, Maria Concepcion, Jamela Santos. The rest of the day, would like to see you do it. Okay. Okay, is that it? Okay, again, I know, okay, Peter Santos is not going to testify. He just signed in. We have Steve. We have Sheila. Okay. Anthony Huggan. Okay, and the Young Men's League of Guam, I think they mentioned they're going to submit written testimony on behalf of the YMLG, right? Yeah, okay. Dr. Souder, Maria Concepcion, Jamela Santos, and former Senator Marilyn Manbusan asked if she can come on as well because she's got a doctor's appointment at 12:30? Former Senator, you can come up, yeah. Yeah, the word we got as well is the cathedral had asked us if we can take a break at noon because they're having mass and they're limited in parking. So we'll take a break at about what time? What time does mass start? I think 12:15, 12:15, 12:10. Okay, so we'll take a break at 12 and 2 o'clock is good. Okay, so we'll break at 12. The church needs the parking space for mass today, and then we'll convene back at 2 o'clock. So okay, go ahead, Steve. Steve, please.
Half-day senators, my fellow islanders that I have served for 31 years with respect of the law, local, federal law, and the U.S. Constitution. My name is Stephen Alger Amagan from Dededo. But before I start my testimony, I would like to read this oath of office. It should be also an oath that every employee of the government of Guam should recite and probably pledge to. It says whether I, like Stephen Amagan, solemnly swear or affirm in the presence of Almighty God that I will well and faithfully support the Constitution of the United States, the laws of the United States applicable to Guam, the laws of Guam, and that I will consciously and partially discharge my duties as a member of the Guam legislature when I was a police officer for 31 years, retired police captain, as a police officer of the Guam Police Department. Let me start. Thank you for this opportunity to provide my testimony. I know you guys are not going to like it, but I am in support of this bill. To provide my testimony in support of this bill, not just putting my thought about it, but possible solutions to accomplish the goal of the people of Guam. Okay? An addendum to help facilitate the process the right way that will not slow down the quest for the political status of Guam. I was born and raised in Iloilo City, Philippines, a country that has similar culture and history. The historical discovery of Ferdinand Magellan, 300 years of Spanish colonization, 1898 Treaty of Paris that ended the Spanish-American War, where Spain ceded Guam, Puerto Rico, and Philippines to the United States. This is where we're at right now. Invaded by Japan and later liberated by the United States. Can you imagine if we're not liberated by the United States? We'll be probably answering to the government of Japan. Freedom that we are all enjoying now. My late uncle, Jose Amagan, fought alongside of our American forces during the Japanese occupation, survived the Bataan Death March that gave him the opportunity to migrate to the United States and later resulted in the migration of my family to Guam in 1982. I consider Guam as my home, serve our nation, serve 3 branches of military, United States Marine Corps, United States Army, and I served the Guam Air National Guard, okay? Guam Air National Guard for 18 years and retired from there, and also serve our people with respect and dignity as a police officer with the Guam Police Department. I have been voting for our public servants since 1990. My vote has helped elect our local mayors, senators, congressmen, women, and governors to run our local government. My opinion before making the decisions for our political status show us how to properly run our island. Show us the plan how to be able to have our people, our island, survive without the United States of America. Guam, that is now my home, and the home of my children and grandchildren, home my fellow veterans have fought for to liberate our freedom that we all now enjoy. But I will respect whatever the people of Guam will decide. But all I'm asking to facilitate the process, do it accordingly, probably the legal way, make it easier as what implicated on the bill. Abide with the court ruling to help facilitate the long-time goal determining our political status. Having our emotions dictate how we're going to be able to attain the political status, it will not help us. We have an attorney in front of us, right? We have some smart senators in front of us that can be able to decipher the law, right? What the proper way to do it without being challenged in court. Thank you to Mr. Davis, who had taken Guam to court and has ruled that the verbiage in Title I, Guam Code Annotated, Chapter 21, that allows only local native inhabitants to vote for our political status, won and ruled it unconstitutional. So that's the biggest hindrance, ladies and gentlemen. No matter how we get emotional about this whole process, if we're not going to address what the court ruling has addressed, we're going to bumping into walls. Our senators then should have introduced a bill, okay, to amend 1 GCA Chapter 21 to be in compliance with our court ruling. We left status quo. They never cared about it. Guam allowed all voters to vote twice. First, the voters voted for improved status quo in the 70s and Commonwealth in 1982. If they have allowed all voters to vote before and have spoken, why didn't our government listen to the voices of our people but instead pass the law codified in 1 GCA Chapter 21 to only allow local inhabitants to vote for political status? With all respect to all the people that have served for 31 years, I will respect whatever decisions you guys have made, but we have to make sure that we move forward following what the U.S. Constitution, following the federal laws, because that is the only way that we'll be able to attain the political status of Guam. By the way, my testimony during the town hall meeting in Deridel, I was surprised. I was contacted by Mr. Davis. I emailed all the senators about my correspondence with Mr. Davis, and along with the attorney that they have. They were willing to represent me, but you know what? I stepped back. Because you know what? I cannot burden the people of Guam for another court battles that will cost all of us the money, that cost the government of Guam the money to fight the case that Mr. Davis have fought for and won. I had the people of Guam in my mind. I received that agreement from the attorney. And the one thing that, you know, I love it, but the only thing that made me not do it is I'm worried for my family. Because I'm not from here. But I will leave it up to all of you guys, the senators, to do the right process, to make it right for the people of Guam. Whatever is right, because we cannot go wrong with right. Okay? He did reach out to me. And up to now, they're keeping an eye on what's going on. And if and will, the bill passes, again, as mentioned, right, I'm not just going to say here and run my mouth without a possible solution. Because my former chief before told me, Steve, if you're going to come to my office telling me that we have a problem in the Guam Police Department, if you don't have a solution, you know what I see you? A complainer. I learned from that guy, Acting Chief L. Agagi. The following choices for all registered voters, right? Status quo. Establish a group like what you guys have now on Title 1, Guam Code Annotated, Chapter 21, the decolonization, same questions that I answered during the public hearing, the town hall meeting. We're supposed to have 3 task force members, 7 each members from this task force, and I asked them, do you have 7 members? When was the last time those 7 members of the task forces were appointed? They couldn't answer me because that's the law. If you guys review it, there's a provision in the time and date when the task force members supposed to be appointed by the legislature or whoever's in charge of that commission. So I guess you guys have to take a look at the task force members. If we have 21, right, 7 for each status. Commonwealth. We're here to say, hey, people of Guam have voted for Commonwealth, right? They established another task force members or a commission. At that time, they were required to come out with a report, coordinate with the federal government, a report to the Guam legislature, to the Speaker of the Guam legislature. It's supposed to be archived at the public library about their meetings with the federal government. And I don't know what happened to the Commonwealth status at the time where the people voted. But, if you're going to complain that nothing's being done, 1982 was an opportunity time, opportunity to make the difference. We have congressmen, congresswomen that sat in that office. We have a representative liaison office in D.C. that we're not fully utilizing. We could have done a lot in 1982. We could have probably established a Commonwealth when the people voted during that time frame. But you know what? We didn't do anything. I wasn't here yet. I was still in the Philippines. So it's not too late. What I suggest that part of the commission or members you guys are going to have to establish is the Commonwealth. Establish the pros and cons. Review the report submitted by the committee to U.S. Congress. The overall organization of the government, how we're going to run this government if the people of Guam decide to vote for Commonwealth. And the biggest problem that we're going to have, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to wake up and smell the coffee, the sources of revenue, how we're going to be able to support ourselves. Third, statehood. If you guys look at Puerto Rico, had voted for statehood. They let all registered voters, U.S. citizens, vote for their political status. And still sitting at the U.S. Congress awaiting decision, okay? We have to establish, again, another study or another pamphlet, the pros and cons, plan how to establish local, I think every state's allowed 2 senators to represent us in D.C., right? And the congressmen. And how we're going to deal with the mayors. How many mayors are we going to have? And again, the overall structure, organizational structure of government of Guam. And again, the source of revenue, how are we going to be able to support ourselves? Fourth, independence. Again, the pros and cons. When we become independent, guys, ladies and gentlemen, what's up to worry about being deported, right? So that's part of the issue that we have concern. Establish a constitution. You guys have discussed that. There was a constitution that was passed in the 70s. We let it die out because I guess one of the conditions is we have to establish a political status. So prepare ourselves. When the people of Guam decided independence, make sure that we have a constitution at hand. How we're going to organize our government. Study the independent status of previous U.S. territories like Palau, right? See how they're doing. And again, sources of revenue. Free association. Pros and cons. Again, deportations, one of the things that I have to highlight. establish the Constitution, how we're going to organize the government, study the FAS, how they're doing now. Take a look at how they're doing now compared to how we are as a status quo. And again, sources of revenue. Place an addendum to, and this bill, place an addendum to create the number of commissions and members. Timelines to accomplish the reports above for the review of the legislature and approval. Conduct outreaches to inform the public to help them determine what status to vote for. Keeping our people informed will be the best bet to help us determine what type of political status that this island will have, either to what you guys wish, local inhabitants will vote, but again, you have to worry about constitutional violations. Determine how to execute the political status vote in accordance with Guam Code Annotated Title 3, Chapter 16. There's a process, ladies and gentlemen. You guys take note. I'm not going to tell you the whole copy of the law. There's an initiative, a referendum, and a legislative submission. We have done it with the cannabis, right? We legalized marijuana, probably we can the same way that we have to approach it. But if you look at the oath of office, we legalized marijuana. It's just contrary to what the federal law. If you look at the budget and 2018 budget law that you guys have, you passed, and the bottom someplace it says, we will put the lowest priority on substantive thing, cockfighting. It's a federal law, so it tells the people of Guam that it's okay for the Senate, the governing body, the senators, to just pick and choose which law that we're going to follow. The just way to determine a political status is to do it in accordance with the U.S. Constitution and local laws. And probably take a look at the UN General Assembly 2685. It's an old document that states, I forwarded some of that to some of my friends, and I will forward it to the senators. That was one of the things that was mentioned, that whatever political status that we're going to decide, that we have to make sure that all the political status that the people have voted before has to be included in that bill. Status quo, Commonwealth, added to the bill. This will prevent legal challenges and expenses that our taxpayers will not be burdened again. This is not the time to be spending money on court battles. Right? We're hurting right now as a government. Our tourism is hurting. I don't know, after the build-up will be done, how we're going to be able to fund our $1.4 billion Guam budget. So I want to end my testimony with a Bible verse, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. Thank you for this opportunity to provide my testimony, and I hope that you all understand that I have the respect. 31 years of service, serving the people of Guam with the respect and dignity, how I was able to protect our people, serve and protect our people, okay? I went to Afghanistan twice, represented Guam, flown the Guam flag with pride. I was called, hey, Bo, hey, I'm good, you're a racist. So why is that? Because you're flying your Guam flag? So you know what, guys? I'm proud to be from Guam. I represent Guam. Whatever I do in the military, I make sure that I do it to the best of my ability, because it is a reflection of our island. So people of Guam, all I'm asking is we sit back, let our emotions settle, follow, see what the best approach to achieve our political status. We cannot do this by emotions. We cannot do this by what we think what happened in the past. Because remember the Jeremiah 29:11? God always has a plan for us. God has that plan to have the United States interfere so that we can be here where we are right now. Can you imagine if we're still under Spain? Can you imagine if we're still under the Japan regime or government? So just take a look at Jeremiah 29:11, and I always say, even when I was a police officer, every time I encounter the public, I always tell them, things in our lives happens for a reason. Only at that time when I retired, I ran to this verse, and now I understood. And take a look at the footprints in the sand. Okay, whatever happens in our lives, do not blame God for what's happening, because even though that you only see one set of footprints, during that time of trial and tribulations, that one set of footprints when God was lifting you during your trials and tribulation. That's why you only see the two sets of footprints. And again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I respect all of you guys. 31 years of serving our island, and I'm proud to be from Guam. God bless.
Can we have a respectful 5-minute time limit for any other testimonies that are being willing to hear? Respectful time limit.
We thought about that in the very beginning, but we want people to fully express themselves, and then that way as well that we can have as many public hearings as needed for that as well. Okay.
My apologies.
Sheila Munya? Anthony? Or, yeah.
I am under the Republic Sinahi Archipelago. My name is Maganiti Rebeto. Under the Master's papers, which is called Organic Act of Guam, my name is Howard A. Hemsing. I am the Yankee go home on this island, and I'm proud of it. We're not U.S. citizens. Not one of you is a U.S. citizen. We need to re-educate ourselves and make our hearts stronger to believe in ourselves. We lack belief. We lack confidence. Everything is America. Independence. We cannot survive without America. We have no natural resources. What other excuses have you heard? Because I've heard them all. We need to unite. We need to believe in ourselves. We don't. We're our worst enemies. You guys, you swore in the Bible to uphold the Constitution of the United States. Hell, I'm what you call that, a domestic activist? You can kill me now. It's okay, because I'm domestic activist. It's allowable in the Constitution. Anyway, this has been done before. I've been involved in this independence and all of this since when it first came out in Guam back in the 70s. And America, our master, has never adhered to that resolution passed by the United Nations, whereas they must fund all project aspects. They must fund. They did it in Saipan, they did it in Palau, they did it in Chuuk, they did it in Pohnpei, but when it came to Guam, we were our own worst enemies. That's when they allowed, in the 80s, when they allowed other people than natives to vote. See, why? Why do we allow that, and why are we having this again? We've been denied this. We are not a citizen of the United States. We are a property of the United States. Robert Underwood was right. You cannot do nothing unless you become, and this is the first time I've agreed with Robert Underwood, you become independent. Because I told Robert Underwood here, and I'm not ashamed of it, because he lacked love for his own home island. And I told him straight, we need to unite. We need to be one. Anyway, be proud of it, because I'm not a Chamorro, I'm a Tautomona. Tautomona is we're the first people. And actually in the world, in independence, this is tourism, money. You know, you guys love money, right? So tourism, I'm talking over 5 million tourists. Because there's 4 countries in the world that claim their origins, and they claim they originated from the mountain range of the crescent moon. Egypt, China, the Mayans, and the Hopi Indians in America. They all claim their origins, the mountain range of the crescent moon. Now, you can see all of that in your Google Earth. That's why I'm also against sea mining, because you're going to ruin the natural the products the things that they have built beyond on the ocean floor, which has been flooded. Now we bring the liners, ocean liners, with submarines, tourism. But never mind, we cannot live without America. Stop it, Howard. Yeah, that's Guam. Stop it. They say we have no natural resources. What happened to our brain and our heart? Isn't that a natural resource? I learned that in science. In high school, how many years back? #1 natural resource in the world is the brain, because it makes something out of nothing. As a native of this island, knowing my history, who discovered the first non-tacking sailing vessel? Our ancestors. It was invented here in Guam. Who invented the first bullet-piercing aerodynamic bullet? The ancestors here, the Atsukatupak. We invented it. Why do we say we have no natural resources? What we lack is confidence and belief in who we are. We believe we're a Chamorro. That's a Spanish word. It means the hind leg of an animal. How can I be a Chamorro? Taking a foreigner's word to identify my identity? Come on, get real. I'm a Tautomona. I'm the Yankee go home. I promote independence. Republic, Sinahi Archipelago, Ungan RSA, Munga Juti USA. Law, if you're going to keep USA, then USA USA for your benefit, which you're doing already, because when it comes to us, you're my worst enemy, because not one of you believe in independence. You've sworn on the Bible. Where is it? You promote lies. You promote paycheck. Money is for, even family has been divided because money. It's like we're a lost cause. Why can't we unite? Why do we have to go through this BS? It's been done already. Why? Unity, confidence, education is lacking on Guam. We believe in the wrong things. We believe more in the liars. Oh, I'm a U.S. citizen. So who did you vote for? Did you vote for Trump? That's my question. Because you don't have the rights to vote. You have no rights to vote for president, vice president, Congress, or a House of Representatives. And it states that in the Constitution, so where is it on Guam? If you guys actually believe you're a U.S. citizen, where is the Constitution? And why do you swear on the Bible? Yes, I'm proud of who I am. And that it is so embarrassing and so shameful to say the words I have said, because who's going to listen? It's not going to hit the heart. We don't care. We're American citizens. Viva America. I say, Yankee, go home. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sauter?
Mr. Chair.
You? Yes.
Mr. Chair, before we start on, are we going to do the 5-minute time limit, just for the sake of everyone having an opportunity to speak?
That's what the committee had decided, that we would do a 5-minute
timeline. Okay, thank
time,
you.
so we can have an opportunity for have everybody to testify that's here. We may have to go out of order because some folks are going to go to mass, and so just tell us when we have a new panel come up. Just tell us your name so we can check you off. But we're going to go through lunch. We're not going to break. We're going to go through lunch, and we'll just we'll go through to 5 if need be. Okay. So Dr. Sauter, would you yield to Jamela? Right? Are you Jamela? Or thank you.
I'll start first. She'll start. Oh. I have to press the sheet.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Alicia Pinaula. And it's been so long since I've been here with the Chamorro Nation, etc. But he is right. Why are you repeating this that has been done before, even from Angel Santos? Already, I thought this has been resolved. And then, and the second, and part of that when I saw the news last night, that's why I'm here. I'm so convicted. Why is this being repeated? And then you saying 1997, 1982. Where is the Spanish true Chamorro? We are the descendants of the Chamorro in 1895, 1898, okay, the American-Spanish War. We are descendants of those Chamorros, true indigenous Chamorro. And if you do it and honor that in 97, you're including the Free Association Compact Agreement. And that's the deception of you in that path. And let me tell you something. Free Association Compact Agreement, okay, my hair has been long and been witchcraft. They send the evil spirits into my hair. And you do not understand. But I got this information, and through through my faith and prayer and admonishment of my Lord and Savior, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we're descendants of a pious Jesus Christ, God-believing people from that time period. And then now that we are just a political status after the 1898 Spanish War of the Americans, then we became that part of the Americans. The war comes by, and then all of a sudden, you're repeating this, and there's a treachery for this to include the outsider. Now, the agreement, okay, the Free Association Compact and the Congress, okay, and I saw it on TV. The leaders of the Chukis and Free Association Compact Agreement is that when the agreement of the United States is fulfilled, it's over. But we were slapped on the face, and none of us Chamorro wanted this in the beginning. And since 1980, I've been having problems with them. They come and drink beer at my children outside my property, the bus stop, things like that. Come out and say, hey, you cannot be doing this and that. They cursed me. I almost died several times, but by grace of God, kept me alive, because this is one of those things that I'm called for, to come up and testify and make sure that our children, okay, the true descendants, the Chamorro. Now let me tell you something, okay? You see this? They used to say, "Oy, Katoliko, that ash is the mark of the beast." Wrong, according to my Lord Jesus Christ. The mark of the beast, which has to do with the Free Association Compact Agreement and the African that have come in. And I am also a victim, and my family, from the African that came in Guam. As a matter of fact, she used to work at UOG and here at the legislature, Laila Okadua Pearson. Okay? She used to work, and she has demonized one of the Chamorro Nation, but I didn't want to say anything because I was not 100% sure. But this mark of the beast from the Seventh-day Adventists has been over 20 years. When I started going to the Seventh-day Adventists, I saw this many years ago, 30 years, etc. And all of a sudden, last year, I saw it again. This is the #1 issue, not the political status. It's not. The bloodline of the Chamorros are in danger right now with this Free Association Compact Agreement and the Africans. And another thing you should be concentrating on is the military, okay? Duro manalmi bakuko, duro badali fa magonta, duro mamanyago ni este. This is what should be the concentration of our leaders, and that the bloodline of our Chamorro, it's at stake. This is coming. It's coming. It's not this year. It might be next year or so. And this is part of our calamity. It's going to happen. It's going to happen throughout the world. It's going to happen in the USA. And it's going to happen here. If you don't do something about the immigration of Africans and military Africans, Africans coming from other countries, and Free Association Compact Agreement are in secret. The hidden secrets of their heart is the witchcraft. Did you know the curses? Go ahead and give me the smirk, because you know what? I could do the same thing, curse you, and have that demon growing inside of you like a cancer.
You have 1 minute.
But this is what they do, and I want you all to
1 minute,
be,
please.
to be aware of this, okay? And the hysterical and erase, okay, with that sign, we will not be erased. This is what's happening right now. We're being erased, and our Chamorro bloodline is being erased. And it's the mark of the beast is the umbilical cord, where we have babies, right? Get pregnant. The umbilical cord to the baby, to the mother, in the placenta. The mark of the beast. This, and I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. In Saipan, okay? Do not repeat the mistake of Saipan. They allowed the Chuckis to come in who ran away from the KGTF. When I saw this and I understood why. They jumped out of the ship and lived on Saipan
Ma'am,
And they
ma'am,
did the same thing, okay? But
thank you very much. I need to go on. The committee decided that we're going to have 5-minute
I'm
limits.
sorry, I'm hard of
Okay,
hearing, but
we decided we're going to have a
please,
5-minute limit. Thank you very much for your testimony. I appreciate your testimony. Thank you very much.
if you don't
Thank
take
you.
heed
Thank
about
you.
this, we're going to be judged
Thank
on
you.
this island. Tsunami
Thank-
and all kinds of tornado.
Thank you very much.
Um,
Dr. Souder?
So you better consider about the free association come back in 1997. You're trying to include them all.
Thank you very much. Dr. Souder?
Si Jules Maasi, Gofanuk naman pinitinoy tau-tauta, zaman in kibukauhit, put todo esti I experiensyata kumuman tau-tautan uhit. Guahu si Laura M. Torres Sauder, gehilo I Komisioni Finot Samoro. My name is Laura Sauder, and I'm here representing the Komisioni Finot Samoro as its gehilo. Clearly, our people are hurting. Intergenerational trauma is real. It's palpable. It's not piniti. And it's amply evident in the voices that come to you today. So thank you for listening to our voices. We need to hear each other out, and it is a painful process, but it is a necessary process. This is the only way we're going to be able to heal as a fractured community. The Commission stands in opposition to Bill number 24238. Most of the members of the Commission have been advocating for the realization of the promise of Chamorro self-determination for decades. For a few of us, as you all know, our advocacy spans over half a century. Sina Hope, who's not here today because she's in the States. Robert, of course, was able to make his presence known. Senora Rosa Palomo, Salas Palomo, myself and others in the Commission have been advocates for well over 50 years. The concept of self-determination is not peculiar to our struggle as the descendants of the first people of Guahan. Contrary to what many assert, respecting, upholding, and exercising the right of self-determination is intrinsically a human right. That is what makes the Davis decision and current efforts to remove ancestry-based voter restrictions in a political status plebiscite for Guam such an affront to the Chamorro people, whose right must be determined within the very colonial restrictions that have denied their rights in the first place. Hence, we confront the argument about the constitutionality of exercising Chamorro self-determination through a Chamorro-only vote. Sadly, our hope for ever being able to exercise our right to self-determination erodes as we become a shrinking majority in our homeland. Notwithstanding, we appeal to non-Chamorro people who have made Guam their home to understand the real issue. Guam is a colony. As such, we do not own our political and economic destiny. The outcome of a plebiscite might very well result in a closer relationship with the United States. That is not the point. The issue at hand is that indigenous people, and we as Mañamoru are indigenous people, we have inalienable rights. The United Nations Charter, which the United States agreed to as a signatory, has declared unequivocally that colonized people have inalienable rights. Chamorro people were the ones who were colonized. Consequently, Chamorro people and their descendants have the right of self-determination for this island. our homeland. This is what international law recognizes. This right should not be extended to people who may live on Guam today, love the island, have their families here, and contribute as community members, but are not descendants of the people who were colonized in the first place. We need everyone, Chamorros and non-Chamorros alike, to recognize what is at stake and to help us in our quest to achieve justice. Esti I diretsyon itaw-taw-tano, si Zeus Masi.
Thank you, Dr. Sauder. Thank you. Maria? Are you Maria? No? Okay. Jamela? Okay.
Half a day, and I think it's still morning. Magandang umaga. It's afternoon. Sa inyong lahat. My name is Jamela Santos, and today I will be reading testimony on behalf of Filipinos for Guahan. Filipinos for Guahan is a collective that unites individuals of Filipino ancestry who advocate for Guahan's decolonization and the right for Chamorro political self-determination. Our membership is comprised of diverse generations of Filipino immigrants who have settled on Guahan and those of us who were born here. We are testifying today in strong opposition to Bill 242-38. We do not support any bill that denies Chamorros their right to political self-determination as Guahan's indigenous people. Filipinos for Guahan calls on all legislators to oppose Bill 242-38 for these key reasons. First, the true intent of the plebiscite is to allow Chamorros as a colonized indigenous people to decide for themselves how they want to be politically governed. Decolonization and the right to political self-determination in Guahan is an international right intended for those who have been colonized for over 500 years in Guahan. These are the Chamorro people and their ancestors who are indigenous to Guahan. The right for Chamorro to decide how they want to be governed should not be extended to all eligible voters, and especially not those who simply meet a 30-day residency requirement in Guahan. Bill 242-38 is a betrayal of the very essence of Inafat Maule. The claim that advancement of the quest for self-determination can only be legally sound and inclusive if it removes ancestry-based voter restrictions invalidates the decades-long struggle that countless leaders have pursued to make right the injustices brought on by colonization. Our second point is that relying on the United States law to dictate the process for political self-determination is contradictory and fundamentally undermines the right for Chamorro as indigenous people to freely decide what they want their relationship with the US to be. Bill 242-38 states that Guahan's decolonization must proceed within the bounds of the United States Constitution, while also stating that self-determination is the freedom of a people to determine the way in which they shall be governed or self-governed. It is not genuine freedom of choice if the process and choice is dictated by the administering colonial power. Filipinos who call Guahan home are participating in the decolonization process in myriad ways. This is our moral responsibility as a people who share colonial histories with Chamorros, especially given that our people of the Philippines were afforded the opportunity to exercise their right to political self-determination and declared themselves as a nation free from colonial Spanish rule. At the same time, we must also remember and respect that political self-determination is a human and indigenous right of a people as they define themselves, not the individual right of United States citizens. This is a human, not constitutional right, which the United States shamefully continues to deny. Filipinos for Guahan is committed to engaging in meaningful conversations between Chamorro and Filipino community members and organizers with the intention to collectively identify a mutually beneficial way Filipinos can work alongside Chamorro for Guahan's decolonization. We call on all of our leaders to oppose Bill 242-38. I'll say that again. We call on all of our leaders to oppose Bill 242-38. In closing, we want to convey that this issue matters to all of us because it impacts all those who love and live here on the island of Guahan. We respect the Chamorro who have cared for us. We have settled here and we stay because they care for us well and the land has cared for us well. Maraming salamat po and sana maasi for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamela. Senator Manluson. Senator?
Dispensa sa atmanti matto kinina lugar. Buenas. Mr. Chairman, Senator Jesse Lujan, and all the senators here, Senator Tello-Taitakui, Senators Sabina Flores, former Speaker Therese Terlahi, and Senator Hazagina Nenzo Gamatato, Bisinuhu, Toto Sinahanya, Zanamiguhu, Zanhaku, Senador William Parkinson, who saludao. I salute you for bringing this matter with the light. It was a very, very dim light, and I'm very grateful for this discussion. Guahan Esi Marilyn Manibusano. I'm an indigenous Chamorro and a native inhabitant. You can call me either or whatever that you're comfortable with. You can even call me other names if you're comfortable with. I'm here to seek a better understanding of the intent of the author in a direct face-to-face conversation. More so because there appears to, in my several readings of the bill, some dichotomies, maybe some inconsistencies. Upon hearing of the introduction of the bill, I was indeed perplexed. I'm going to read the intent, so it's very clear that I am speaking, and the content of my discussion today is focused and centralized on what the intent of the bill is to achieve. And the intention has challenged the process in the past relative to ancestry-based voter restrictions in Guam's political status and ensuring compliance with the 15th Amendment. And it's really a simple bill changing just almost a few words or one word from a Chamorro voter registration, to opening it up to everyone. So I continue to discern, to read, I want to follow your thought process. And so this is why I'm here, to have that open, honest, truthful, face-to-face discussion between the author to understand his thought process and why would he introduce this bill. I mean, it's in the preamble of the bill. If you could understand why, some of the reasons why that led to this bill. I would like to pause for a moment. And I wanted to recognize a dear friend of mine who happens to be bears your same surname. I also like to pause for a moment of silence to the great warriors. They're family members of some of you. You know who they are. You hold their fire. You're here because of that passion. You're here because someone led you to believe and to have that faith. Even if the status option you believe in or the process is entirely different from my belief system. So the moment of silence goes to todo isi pamalo na, na warriors. I call them warriors because it was a struggle. It was a pursuit to get the momentum going. Not a very popular subject. It's a tough, complex issue, and you need to understand it. So si Zeus maasi para todo exhibition niya esti the warriors who place these challenges today. I take it to the people approach to hear from Tautano is something that I salute Senator Parkinson for bringing it to the people, taking it to the people, okay? Because like I said, we're still a colony since 1898. And so I'm here because I personally believe that your reason to bring this is not a political ploy to gain votes because it's not a popular matter. It's not. More leaders shy away from it because it's so complex and the fear of polarizing the community, which is, and I applaud the testimony of Dr. Souter. Polarizing the community is not the intent. Okay. I believe in my heart because I believe what your father did. My participation and presence today has been a challenge for me personally, and politically. Lo me got niya na I corazon, met good. And I corazon, Senator Parkinson, I don't understand ko un tungo faso. I corazon and I passion is the one that leads me and compels me to hear because it's been a long time.
Senator, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So there's been 2 initiatives, one through the federal territorial relationships and one through the United Nations. So I'm going to, since I have 2 minutes, and beg the good chairman to just maybe a few minutes here, more than a few minutes. So let's look at where we're at. Here are points to consider. First of all, it is important for the record to note that Senator Don Parkinson believed in the Chamorro right to the Chamorro vote only. Senator Don Parkinson has defended publicly the right through his tenure as a Guam senator. Senator Don Parkinson became a knowing voice at national and international forums calling for indigenous people vote only. Senator Parkinson, Don Parkinson, was looked at as the voice in these political arenas, both local, national, and international. And his testimony before the United Nations indicates for the record that he, your father, your dad, supported the Chamorro right to self-determination and defended the definition of whether indigenous or native inhabitant. So here we need to ask, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, are we trying to get a new status vote? What are we trying to do here? Governor Ada led this education campaign, a thorough education campaign that said, take it to the people. Options. Governor Joseph Ada said, what is available? Do you think that Maria Antonucen and Vicente Matungo na Guaha
Senator, one more minute.
incorporated, Todi status options? So he took it to the people. Self-determination, here are the points to consider. And I'm going to read it very fast because I don't want to upset the chairman. Decolonization is a restorative justice measure for all justices. When our group, a group of the local people, Si Robert Underwood, Guahu, Giparapada, we went out and defeated the Constitution, went into this vigorous campaign because we wanted the people to understand that you cannot write a document calling it a Constitution of Guam, and who told you to write it? You didn't say, I want to do it. There was a federal piece of legislation that said, I'm authorizing you. Who are you? Doesn't the Constitution say we, the people of Guam? The other point to consider is that the UN Charter, who is the administrating authority? Who placed us there? We didn't. We didn't say we want to. We were declared a colony by the insistence of the United States to place us there. Are we still there? Absolutely. Did the vote for did citizenship take us away from our colonial status? Absolutely not. Did the establishment of the U.S. Organic Act gave us full citizenship and take us away from
Senator, please conclude your testimony. Thank you.
My conclusion is, if the intent of this bill is to change who is now going to be eligible to vote on Guam's political status by merely deleting reference to eligible voters, didn't we do that? Didn't Guam accomplish that? When all qualified voters of Guam voted on the plebiscite for a Commonwealth status, wasn't that inclusive? Couldn't we say that is a real plebiscite? The other concluding assumption is, if the expression of the will of all eligible voters residing in Guam for a political status change is a Commonwealth not considered binding, whose authority was that? Who defined it as non-governing? The United States Congress. So, will this bill change that? The United States Congress, through the Constitution and its plenary power, can change that like this, like another piece of federal territorial relations that they did when they authorized the Guam Constitution. So in ending, Mr. Chairman, in ending, will Bill 242 change the political status of Guam from having a colony, from being a colony as defined by the United Nations, when the United States is the administering power over Guam is listed as one of the colonies? Will it change that? Would it take us away from the definition or the identification as a colonized people, as a colony? No. No, this legislation of changing it to all voters, we've already accomplished that act. You can call the plebiscite vote on Commonwealth as a general vote by all the people who were there to vote as accomplishing the intent of this bill. So here's my question. What are we to achieve by this bill when we already have done it? We have never restricted any of the political referendums to just Chamorro vote. But the Chamorro registry, okay, exists. Thank you to the late Senator Ben Pangilinan. And why would it exist if the people, the Guam leaders, didn't believe that the registry for that particular, for Chamorro vote only, was not a right, was to exercise that right to achieve true self-determination, remove Guam as a colony from the United Nations. This bill isn't going to do it. Changing that identification and the term from native inhabitants and whatever does not change it. What can change it? Hita na ginigita totano.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, hita totano. Thank
you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman.
Do you have your written testimony? Could you submit your testimony, your written testimony?
I will present this because I deviated from the...
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Flores.
Thank you para todo do se mangagi gini. Todo do e temponia zo usaluda hamzo because la idirection tomorrow para umabota hafa minaulik toto para totano. La. Si Zeus Maasi, Senator Parkinson, si Zeus Maasi, okay?
Ms. Flores, thank you.
Half a day, Chairman Lujan and Senators. My name is Monica Flores. A lot of you know me, and coming in here testifying, and you're going to hear some of the same words I've said before. You know, we can think of all of the problems that exist in our community, from never-ending cycles of poverty to the housing crisis to ecological crisis to generations now of contamination, to generations of people suffering from illnesses because of that contamination, generations of people fighting for justice, and all of that is connected to our colonial status. Every single one of those problems. And this bill, Bill 242, is a false solution to the stalemate for self-determination. Again, I'm going to repeat that. You've heard me say this many times. This is a false solution. This does not provide a legitimate solution to the colonization that we've had to endure now for 500 years. Nobody likes ambivalence. Ambivalence is not good for anybody in any relationship, right? It leads to all kinds of problems, and we have political ambivalence. We've been enduring the problems of political ambivalence for way too long. What is not ambivalent are who are the people who have been colonized here in Guam. That is very clear. We know that historically who the colonized are, and decolonization is the right of the colonized. We want to see the wrongs of the past corrected. And unfortunately, what this bill does is it continues these wrongs, as a matter of fact. There is a trap, a liberal trap, that you have fallen into of equality versus equity. First of all, the Chamorros are not equal. We are not equal to the rest of the citizens of the United States. This is not an issue of equality. This is an issue of equity. And you should understand what that means. When we think about people right now in our community who are suffering, people who are suffering to house their family, to feed their family, in all the ways that people need support in order to survive here on a day-to-day basis. We have to make certain special accommodations and assistance for those who have no equity. And that is what a vote for our self-determination for Chamorro, self-determination is. It's a vote for equity. This is also an issue of settler colonization. When settlers, non-native people, help the colonizer to continue imperialist authority over the colonized. This is an act of settler colonization, intentional or unintentional. Settlers can participate and even be complicit in the colonization of our community. And that is what this is. Instead, Senator Parkinson, I challenge you to be a responsible settler, not one complicit with the ongoing colonization, a very violent colonization that we're enduring today. We just are starting our fight against deep sea mining. That is another symptom of the disease that is colonization. We would not be in that mess if we were not a colony of the United States. This is a polarizing issue. And unfortunately, what it means is that you've put Chamorro people in the position to defend our rights in a way that we have to also say, we're not unreasonable. We are not unjust. This is not discrimination. You are pitting community members against us in introducing this bill. You are actually making this work harder for all of us. While we're all engaged in fighting all of the symptoms of colonization, the urgent issues, this is actually a horrible distraction that is taking away time, energy, and resources from the fights that we're all engaged in on the ground. You know what, Senator Parkinson? A lot of us in the community know you as an advocate for reproductive rights. And if I'm paraphrasing here, but you yourself have said, as a man, you have no right to tell a woman or pregnant person what to do with their body, and that you understand that you don't have that authority. This is the same thing. This is the exact same thing. If you as a man understand that you don't have the authority to tell a woman or a person who is pregnant what to do with their body, this is the exact same thing, and you are infringing on our rights. I only have one thing to ask you: repeal this bill. Do not move it forward. Repeal this bill or take the sanahi off that you're wearing. Be a responsible settler. Do not fall into the liberal trap. The liberal trappings. Oh, I'm suddenly not feeling well, excuse me. We've been here since 8:45 this morning. Sorry. Thank you. I'm physically ill. And I'm going to just pause for a second because, and also I just want to also echo one of the concerns that was mentioned earlier. This time is not accessible. This time of day, 9 o'clock in the morning, is not accessible. This room was full of people here to testify on this bill. You would have seen 10 times at least as many people, if not more, if this was held in the evening, where more people could have attended. We need this committee and every committee of this legislature to think about that you need to make this more accessible for our people to participate. I'm going to just repeat a few things here. Decolonization is the right of the colonized. Not newcomers, not settlers, the colonized. You have to respect native inhabitants. Right now, you're violating our rights. Thank you so much. Just like you would advocate to not violate a woman's right to choose, just like you would advocate to not violate a person's right over their own bodies, you have to see the similarity here. You have to recognize that body sovereignty, land sovereignty, political sovereignty are all connected. And these are things that we have been fighting for generations. We will not be erased. Say it with me, everybody. We will not be erased. We will not be erased. Listen, please listen. Sizos Masi, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Thank you, Ms. Flores. Any questions for the panel? Senator? Senator Gumatauta? Or Senator Lai?
I want to say thank you to all of you who testified. Thank you for pointing out some things. I'm glad they were pointed out today. And thank you, Dr. Souter, as one of our sign-up, for reminding us of intergenerational trauma. And some of that continues to be, we continue to be traumatized. But thank you for recognizing that. Thank you all for your courage, your conviction, your willingness. I'm very, very grateful for all of you who've been fighting this fight for so very long. And I just don't agree with polarizing the community either. And I don't, you're very kind, Senator Manabusan, to say that it was not intentional. I think it's very clear when we're facing all the things that we are facing, that we have to be very strategic about what we are going to pit ourselves against. And particularly pitting ourselves against each other is not something that our community needs right now. And we should never forget that we did put that Commonwealth Act in front of the Congress, and they considered it and denied it. It wasn't some gracious act of theirs. That was their decision. And I just admire how some of you have phrased what the bill looks like to you, because it's hard to put those things into words. I can tell that you really took a lot of time and considered this very, very well. False solution, continuing the wrongs of the past. I feel that way as well. Sizos Masi.
Thank you, Senator Lai. Senator Taidigui.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions at this time, but I definitely wanted to say thank you so much for being here to testify. And holding my, breath on something I wanted to say, but, Senator Manabusan, thank you for coming here. But I think, we can't judge people just because their father or their mother or somebody else did something before and expect that that child's going to be the same. That's not true. So I think we're all individuals by who we are today, and that's the reflection that we see. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taidigui. Senator Gumatauta.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to the panel, I think we have the commission is no longer here, but I would encourage you all. I've heard some great arguments today to find a way to move forward. I'm hoping that each and every one of you can go back to the commission and then help us up with a pathway. If this bill is not it, I'm hoping that you can help us find one that can get us there. I appreciate all of this effort, but I think from a policy point of view, I think there's some really smart people at this panel. There's smart people in the last panel. There's a lot of smart people in this room that I'm hoping you go back to them. And if this is in the policy, then I'm hoping you'll help us craft one. And I hope and plead for your help. And because I know you have all the energy and the willingness to help serve all of the people of Guam. And I want to work with you as best I can, but I think we need to find, if this is not it, what is it? And I'm hoping that you can help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gumatautau. Senator Sabina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to thank everybody who came today. I know it's very hard to come here, and but you came with very sharp arguments. And, you know, I think that's what this struggle has caused us to be, is to become sharper in our arguments and more clear, because we have not given up. And that's what's important, is that we do not give up. And I also want to reiterate that, you know, there's a lot of fear behind it, you know, considering, you know, we don't know what the steps are, but I truly believe that, you know, with our values, and we stick to our values of principles that are very much aligned with the human rights, I think we can all make this island, you know, beautiful together. And so, you know, I just want to encourage everyone to work together, continue to work together. Sintuas Masi.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, panel. Yes,
Well, just one thing before I leave. This question has not been answered when I testified before. This is in accordance to 1 GCA chapter 21. This is the task forces. The commission shall create 3 task forces, right? Shall be composed of 7 members appointed by the commission who are advocates to the status. Okay, so that's total of 21 members supposedly. Okay, the 3 task forces shall draw upon the resources of the commission on decolonization, and no later than 4 months from the date of their appointment.
Why is he talking again? I thought we had a 5-minute limit.
Yeah.
A question I'm going to have to ask.
He asked for an extension, and I've given everybody else as well. Thank you.
Conducting an extensive study, including from the general public, its task force shall present a position paper. So what I'm asking is, do we have the position paper? Okay, let the public know.
Thank you, Mr. Abigood. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to call out some names if they're here. Please step forward. Nolan Flores, Michaela Blas, Angela Santos, Melanie Cruz, can't read this name, Aliana Barnes or Barrera, and Gabriel Lane, Ryan Santos, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Michael Phillips. Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And whoever else wants to testify, because I think we're going out of order, and that way just identify yourselves when you come up. Let's fill up 8 seats, yeah. Huh? Who's this? Karen, if you want to go ahead and step up, go ahead, because we're going out of order right now because we've got a bunch of people that left. If you want to go ahead in the next panel, are you good with that? Okay. Okay, are we all comfortable with 5-minute limit for the panel? We're all comfortable with this? Okay, so we'll start out with that. Okay, you wanna we just start down with our left and then go down the row? Okay, like that. Okay, so and just go ahead and identify yourself again so we can mark you off on the the sign-in sheet here? Okay? To what? Okay, in 10 minutes, we're gonna have to take a recess because they're gonna have to reset our YouTube, right? Or can we do it right now? 10 minutes? Starting now? Okay. We'll recess for 10 minutes because they need to reset the YouTube channel.